throughout the day to please visit our exhibitors around the room and in the back ballroom. Thank you. And for our online audience, you can go to the virtual exhibit hall right now until we get ready to start our program. We also have a social media challenge, which is new this year. You can win a $50 gift card if you share a selfie online, a picture at an exhibitor's booth, a picture of the vendors, and tell people that you are at the Black Health Matters Harlem Week Health Summit and Expo. At the end of the day, we're going to select the person that made the most posts. Okay?
Chance for you, 'cause there's a spark in you. You just gotta ignite the light and let it shine. Just on the night, like the 4th of July. 'Cause baby, you're a firework. Come on, show 'em what you work. Make 'em go. As you shoot across the sky, baby, you're a firework. Come on, let your colors burst. Make 'em go, you're gonna leave 'em all in You don't have to feel like a wasted space. You're original, cannot be replaced. If you only knew what the future holds. After a hurricane comes a rainbow. Maybe a reason why all the doors are closed, so you could open one that leads you to the perfect road. Like a lightning bolt, your heart will glow, and when it's time, you know you just gotta ignite the light and let it shine. Just on the night, like the 4th of July. 'Cause baby, you're a firework. Come on, show 'em what you worth. Make 'em go, as you shoot across the sky. Baby, you're a firework. Come on, let your colors burst. Make 'em go, you're gonna leave 'em all in Boom, boom, boom. Even brighter than the moon, moon, moon. It's always been inside of you, you, you. And now it's time to let it through. 'Cause baby, you're a firework. Come on, show 'em what you worth. Make 'em go, as you shoot across the sky. Baby, you're a firework. Come on, let your colors burst. Make 'em go, you're gonna leave 'em all.
check. 1, 2. Check, check.
Hello, hello. Hello, everyone. There is no holding seats. There's no holding seats for anyone. So when people come in, if you are not occupying a seat, those seats are available. Thank you. Anyone looking for a seat, just go to an available seat unless it has a reserve sign. The ladies' restroom is located when you came into the check-in. There's a big restroom. There's also one in the exhibit hall in the back. Testing 1, 2.
What you think? Figure out? Here you go. Number one. Bring me up higher. Number one. All right, we're good. Number one. One, two, one. Number two. Here, bring me up. You good? No feedback. 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1. Why you? 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. One, two, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. One of my mics is missing from up here. 1, 2. What's he getting? One, two. 1, 2, 1, 2.
Testing.
One, two. Keep coming. All right, come up. One, two, one, two. One, two, one, two, one. This is five. Five. What number is this? What number is this?
We don't have any extra chairs anymore. Hello, once again, please do not hold any seats. Please do not hold any seats. There's a seat right here in the front. Ma'am, there's a seat right there. Where's the person? Sit there. There's no bag there. Sorry for the delay. We're about to start our program.
Miss Tate, could you give me a double X large of high voltage black health man?
Oh, I don't have any of those right now. They were just out there.
Okay. Thank you.
One. One, two.
Testing.
Hello, hello.
One, two.
Good morning, Harlem, and welcome to the Black Health Matters 2024 Harlem Week Health Summit and Expo. We hope that you had an easy time checking in and enjoyed the complimentary breakfast. Please make your way quickly to the auditorium and take your seats for the start of our summit day.
Hello? Hello, everyone. Hello to my people who've been waiting to get in. We were up early with the chickens to make it, so I appreciate you all being here. Please, please, may I ask you, if you have a seat next to you, please let somebody take it. We are at standing capacity. I had so many people come to me and say, what about our seniors, right? So please, if you see a senior and that seat is empty, please let them have it. There are more seats on this side, so people can come across to this side of the building.
Turn your computer up. We're virtual, baby. Let's go. This is how we do it. Hey. This is how we do it. Sha-na-la-la-la-la. Montel Jordan, Black Health Matters. Turn your computer up. We're virtual, baby. Let's go. This is how we do it. Hey, this is how we do it. Sha-na-la-la-la-la. Come on. Sha-na-la-la-la-la. This is how we do it. Oh, wow, wow, wow. Check it out. This is how we do it. It's Saturday night, and I feel alright. The party's here on the west side, so I reach for the old school and I turn it up. A designated driver take the keys to my truck. Hit the song and they played it. The honeys in the streets say money, oh we made it. It feels so good in your hood tonight. The summertime skirts and the guys in Kanai. All the gangbangers forgot about the drive-by. You gotta get your groove on before you go get paid. So tip up your cup and throw your hands up and let me hear the party say, I'm kinda buzzed and it's all because this is how we do it. Black Health Matters does it like nobody does. This is how we do it. And to all my neighbors, you got much flavor. This is how we do it. Let's flip the track, bring the old school back. I can't hear you. This is how we do it. All hands are in the air and wave on from here to there. If you're an OG Mac or a wannabe player, you see the hood's been good to me ever since I was a lowercase G. But now I'm with the big G. The girls see we got the money, $100 bills, y'all. If you were from where I'm from, then you would know that I gotta get mine in a big black truck. You can get yours in a 6'4". Whatever it is, the party's underway. So tip up your cup and throw your hands up and let me hear the party say, I'm kinda buzzed and it's all because this is how we do it. Black Health Matters does it like nobody does. This is how we do it. It's All my neighbors, you got much flavor. And I'll never come whack on an old school track now. A little louder, I said I'm kinda buzzed, it's all because Black Health Matters does it like nobody does. YNB, FCC, all my homies, I'll never come whack on an old school track. Yo, now check it out. Once upon a time in 94, Montel made no money and life sure was slow. And all they said was 6'8" he stood. And people thought the music that he made was good. Delivered DJ and Paul was his name. He came up to money, this is what he said. You and OG are gonna make some cash. Help save lives, then we making the dash. Black Health Matters.
Hello, Black Health Matters. Are we ready for a day of health, wellness, and community? Thank you so much for coming. My name is Rosalind Young Daniels. I am CEO and founder, and this is a beautiful day, a great day in Harlem to be healthy. We have an amazing lineup for you. And we're just actually going to flow a little bit. We're going to vibe. I have already ruined the script for my team, so I'm getting all kinds of eyes. So we're just going to go with it. We have so many dedicated servants to health and wellness in this room. So we're going to start out with none other than our councilman. We will have Commissioner Vasan from the New York City Department of Health. Please welcome him.
Good morning, Harlem. How are you? It's so good to be back. Go good. We're good? We're on the mic? Good. It's so good to be back here today at Black Health Matters. I'm going to try to move this, sorry. It's wonderful to be here, and this is an incredible turnout. I mean, I had to fight the crowds to get in, and that just shows me how much you care about your community and how much you care about the health of your neighbors and yourselves. So give yourselves a round of applause for getting out here today. It's wonderful to be back in Harlem. It's wonderful to be here again at the Black Health Matters Harlem Week 2024 Health Summit and Expo. Harlem is, of course, a very special location for the city and its public health system. In fact, the health department has been here for over a century. Our first ever district public health office, or neighborhood health action center as it's called, opened in East Harlem in 1921 and still provides community tailored care today. And more recently, and you might not know this, we broke ground last year on a new public health laboratory next to Harlem hospitals. This is going to be the embodiment of New York City as the public health capital of the world. The state-of-the-art public health lab scheduled to open in 2026, now firmly planted in Harlem, which, dare I say, might be the capital of New York City. Our city health department is, of course, simultaneously local and national and global in scale and in reach. But it's neighborhood events like this one, that lay the critical groundwork for achieving a healthier New York City. In fact, we've launched a campaign to do just that. Healthy NYC is our strategy to achieve healthier, longer lives for all New Yorkers, and we're setting out to make New York City the healthiest big city in the world. Healthy NYC, yeah, that's worth an applause, I think. Healthy NYC is about bringing together communities and government, public and private sector, and bridging public health and healthcare systems to work towards a common project, which is tackling the leading causes of premature and preventable death in our city. By 2030, Healthy NYC aims to raise our lifespans, or our life expectancy, of all New Yorkers to its highest ever level, 83 years. We've chosen this as our North Star because there is no more important measure or metric for how we're doing as a community, how we're doing as a city, or how we're doing as a larger society, and as Ambassador Eisen will say, how we're doing as a democracy, frankly, than how long and how well we live. And make no mistake, America has been falling behind on this front, and in New York City as well. During the pandemic, New Yorkers' life expectancy fell for the first time in a century, and black and brown communities were the most impacted and continue to bear the burden of that truth. The truth is, on average, black New Yorkers live to about 76 years. That's 6 years shorter. Black New Yorkers die 6 years sooner than white New Yorkers. That is enormous, and that is unacceptable. It's unacceptable. So at New York City's Health Department, we're doing everything we can to close that gap. Realizing that vision is more complicated than just a bunch of individual lifestyle changes. It requires full awareness of what we're up against and an approach that works on both root causes as well as the more visible branches of the tree of health. I'm going to say this very clearly. There is a historical context of racism built in to the architecture of our country, of our city, and the medical system and healthcare systems that serve it. And this, and it's important to name it because this has created patterns of illness, patterns of health outcomes, patterns of inequality in opportunity. But it's not enough just to recognize these patterns, we have to break them. And that's not up to this community to do alone. Government, people like me, must play a role in improving healthcare outcomes for its people. In a place as diverse and sometimes as unequal as New York City, we will not reach our citywide goals without centering the needs of black New Yorkers. Racial equity is not separate from, but central to everything we do. And that means making intentional investments here in Harlem and in communities like it across our city, and building citywide programs that we know will benefit black New Yorkers. Things like our work to relieve more than $2 billion in medical debt for 500,000 New Yorkers. And we know that black New Yorkers are 50% more likely to carry medical debt than others. Our efforts to protect abortion access, like building our abortion access hub and ensuring medication abortion is available at all of our public health clinics, and the right of every New Yorker, including people who live right here in Harlem, to make decisions about their health care and about their body. And our focus on expanding access to mental health care, especially youth mental health care, with our NYC Teen Space program, which is on track to reach nearly 20,000 young people aged 13 to 17 by the end of the year, the majority of which are black and other people of color, as well as our expansion of school-based mental health centers. We know that black New Yorkers are benefiting from these programs and from these direct actions, and will continue to benefit from this work because we're paying attention and we're acting with intention. We are focusing on the communities, your community, that has been historically left behind by our systems. That's a reason why our oldest neighborhood health action center is here, why we're building our public health laboratory here, and it's why I'm here today. The health of this community and the health of black New Yorkers across this city indeed matters. Indeed matters. So let me end here. We can't expect to get back the lost years of life or the life in those years without centering black health. We are focused as a city on giving you and your loved ones as much time as we can. And if a career in health has taught me anything over 20 years, it's that there's no more valuable currency than time. And the key to that time is health. So I hope you will all take advantage today of all the incredible resources in the fair. I guess they're screening mammograms outside. That's incredible. And of course, visit our New York City Department of Health table. And as your city's doctor, we are in this fight together, striving towards a healthier New York City for all. Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate you, and it's my honor. Thank you.
All right, Dr. Vassan did a wonderful job, and he let us know that black health matters. So next, I have the privilege and honor to introduce you to none other than Sandra Bookman. Sandra joined Eyewitness News in 1998 as a weekend anchor and reporter. She now anchors Eyewitness News at noon and also hosts ABC TV's public affairs show, Here and Now. She is the proud recipient of Emmy Awards, and again, I have to say, she is here for the community. How many years? She's been on air for a long time. And if you've got a story and it's positive, you know that you can call her office and they are more than happy to put a spotlight on what you're doing. We go to different communities across the country and we're like, where's the Sandra Bookman in this market? And they don't have one. So you are our jewel. Thank you for being here. Please welcome Sandra Bookman.
Thank you, guys. You're so kind. When I got here, I had no gray hair. Oh, my Lord, it's all gray now. Thank God for hair color. The show that I work on, Here and Now, one of the things that we do a lot of is stories about Black health. And it's important to us because I think the pandemic, if nothing else, illustrated just how much your health matters. And one of the reasons our community was hit so hard is because we had a lot of pre-existing conditions that we had not been taken care of. And that's why I am so happy to be a part of this summit today to get the word out. We have a phrase that we use in my business, news you can use, and at really taking a look at what Rosalind and her team have put together today, you are going to sit here and listen to a lot of news you can use because we want you to take it home, that information, and use it. Information is power. And that is what Rosalind and her team are trying to help give you today. We've got some special guests here this morning, and we want to give them a chance to address the audience. So the next guest I would like to introduce is New York City Councilman Yusef Salaam. Okay, so come on up here and let me talk about you a little bit. Councilman Salaam represents District 9. As one of the exonerated 5, he has been profiled in award-winning films, including the Emmy Award-winning Netflix limited series When They See Us, written and directed by Ava DuVernay. You got your own cheering section out here. Over the past 2 decades, Yusef has become a family man, a father, poet, activist, and inspirational speaker. He continues to utilize his platform to share his story with others and educate the public about the impact of mass incarceration and police brutality rooted in our justice system. It is my pleasure to welcome Councilman Yusef Salaam.
I want to first just open up by saying, may the peace, mercy, and blessings from the owner of all peace, mercy, and blessings be upon each and every one of you. When I got the invite to come this year to the Black Health Matters Summit, I said, you know what? I am honored. I'm honored to be able to participate not just as a black man, but as an elected official who was run over by the spike wheels of justice. If you know anything about what happens to a person like me at such a young age, 15 years old, 35 years ago, they counted us out. But they forgot the plan of God. And I want to say this because I want this to be a testament to the resilience of us as a people. I am you and you are me. And in that resilience, what I want to echo is something that it's a conversation that I had with my grandmother. May God rest her soul. When I was in prison, my grandmother couldn't visit me often, but she wrote me letters. And the letters were always addressed to this character called Master Yusef Salaam. But what's more important is that I always got those letters. I'm saying this because if you know what happens to your letters when you write your loved ones, the letters are read, interrogated, processed by the authorities before they even get to the person. So imagine the officer looking at the letter and saying, "This is to Master Yusef Salam." I suppose my grandmother in her wisdom was trying to tell them who they had. And then when I received the letter and I read Master Yusef Salam, she was trying to tell me whose I was. I used to write my grandmother often, and I would tell her, "May God grant you a long life." I wanted my grandmother to be around for as long as possible. I want you all to be around for as long as possible. My grandmother corrected me one day. She said, "Rather, you should say, may God grant you life in your years." That's why we're here today. We're here because when I think about the Central Park Five that we were once known as, now the exonerated five, now an elected official for this district. Sometimes I chuckle because folks sometimes they'll send out pictures of me, and the pictures may not look nothing like the now me. So I just want to say, Google me before. I was approaching 225 pounds. I remember when I was working in healthcare, I walked up the stairs one day. I was working at New York Presbyterian Hospital on the East Campus, Weill Cornell. And I remember coming uptown, and I would joke sometimes as a motivational speaker how I would wear suits just like this. I was working in computers. And for some strange reason, when I got to my neighborhood, I started to bop a little harder. It was interesting because I think what was happening was that I wanted my community to know, because they may not have known who I was, right? We were gone for a long time. But I just wanted them to know this was a costume, that I'm from here. So that bop was just to let them know what it was. But when I look at those pictures, one day I was at 135th Street, coming up the stairs at Malcolm X Boulevard, Lenox Avenue. And I went up one step. And I said, "Man, I feel a little winded." And I went up another step, and next thing I know, I started to fade, and I held on to the banister. Then after I got myself together, I walked up the steps, got up to my penthouse apartment. It was another 6 flights without an elevator. But I got there and I rested, and I thought. And I thought about the conditions that we choose when we are in the margins of life. I thought about what happens when we're in struggle mode, in survival mode. We need to go from, and we really need to grow from, struggle mode to thriving mode. And how do we do that? 35 years ago, I was 15. I turned 50 this year. I turned 50. And my mother is still here with us, and I'm thankful for that. And she's also a survivor from cancer. What I want to say is that we have to do all that we can, because right now we're on the brink of destruction, but we're also on the crossroads of the greatest participation ever. And what do I mean by that? I mean that when you read scripture, it says, God usually says to his messengers and prophets, "What's in your hand?" What is in our hand? What can we do ourselves, even though we have been disproportionately divested of? What can we do when we look at the healthcare, and the healthcare that we need is just now coming into our community that's looking at the cultural competencies that we are desiring? What's in our hands when we need to make sure that when we look at a Dick Gregory who would talk about health and talk about fasting and talk about how he would use the cayenne pepper, all of those things allow us to be the best that we can be and to correct a lot of the things that have been heaped upon us. Never forget, during COVID, some of the essential places were places like the liquor store. And I'm not trying to tell people to follow my way, but what I will say is this: when you go to other communities, their liquor stores, they have fine liquor, they have wine, they have different types of things. Our liquor stores, we got Mad Dog 2020. We got Ripple. We got stuff that is called hard liquor. And what, somebody says Cisco. And what happens when we take these things, if you really do the knowledge as we used to say, you will realize that we're taking these things so that we could just go a little bit further throughout our day. What happens when we are able to remember the party and not just say like a rap song, last night was mad real, sunglasses and Advil. Show me the photos. I want to see what I did. We want to remember the party. We want to live full. We want to live full. We want to live full so that when we come to the end of our life, we've died empty. We've given everything that we have so that we can be positioning ourselves for the great legacy that we need to leave, because it needs to all matter. And so with that, I want to end as I started with the conversation that my grandmother reminded me of, and say to each and every one of you, may God grant you life, meaning vitality, opportunity, movement. May God grant you life in your years. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Salam. It's my pleasure next to call to the podium Mr. Winston Majette, Executive Director and Board Member, the Greater Harlem Chamber of Commerce and Harlem Week, Inc.
Good morning, good morning. Brother Youssef, this event, Harlem Week's Black Matters Health Summit and Expo, is for you because this year we are 50 years old. So you were born at the right time 50 years ago, and I'm so glad you are here with us 50 years later as we celebrate Harlem Week and its 50th anniversary. I got a message from some audience members that are small business owners and a part of community-based organizations that they're looking for access to capital. And the answer for them is tonight. Harlem Week has its Banking, Finance, and Cybersecurity Conference at Chase Bank at 55 West 125th Street at 5:30, and we're gonna be talking about access to capital. So, absolutely. So, Black Health Matters has asked me to have the first 20 attendees that call our office to say, I want to be a part of banking, finance, and cybersecurity tonight at Chase Bank. So please reach out to us at 212-862-7200. That's 212-862-7200, and be a part of our Banking, Finance, and Cybersecurity Conference at Chase Bank at 55 West 125th Street. As you also know, across the street at the Adam Clayton Powell Jr. State Office Building Plaza, there's an event we do with the Office of General Services called Summer Stage in Harlem. Great live concert performances that start at 5 o'clock. So if you're here all day, when you finish at 4:30, come across the street to 163 West 125th Street and be a part of our concert series that Harlem Week is doing with the Office of General Services. Now, how many of you familiar with a little company called Inner City Broadcasting? I see a few of you out there. You probably also know it as WBLS. 107.5, who is also celebrating its 50th birthday. We started right across the hall from Percy Sutton and Hal Jackson as they started WLIB and WBLS. And we're helping WBLS celebrate its 50th anniversary this year. Give it up for WBLS. This Saturday, August 17th, at West 135th Street and St. Nicholas Avenue, going towards Malcolm X Boulevard, we have our Summer in the City program from 1 p.m. to 8 p.m. And we'll be celebrating one of the great DJs, Von Harper of the Quiet Storm. Come out as we celebrate the Quiet Storm and Von Harper. And we have 3 fabulous fashion shows we want you to check out on our St. Nicholas stage on 135th Street with our children's back to school show, our adult urban, and our fashion flavor. And speaking of flavor, we have some fantastic entertainers that you may have heard of. A man named Eric Benet. Yes, one of the true Quiet Storm performers. And one of the DJs from WBLS, he has a band, a great R&B and pop band, Mr. Jeff Fox. So come out and listen to the Jeff Fox Band this Saturday. And for those of you who have grandchildren, we want you to bring them out to the New York City Children's Festival. It's at Howard Bennett Playground at West 135th Street between 5th Avenue and Malcolm X, between 12 and 5. We have everything, technology, we have healthy living, healthy eating, everything children love, including games and rides. And make sure you go by Amazon Access and find out about their family programs where you can get up to 70% prescription discount. Hear me now, up to 70% prescription discount signing up with the Amazon Access program. And you know, they may have lowered the price on Metformin to $35, but take 70% off of that, and I think you're gonna get very healthy and get diabetes away from you. So make sure that you come out this Saturday. Our biggest day, the day that we're named after, Harlem Day, is on Sunday, August 18th, and we extend ourselves 1 block. We go from 135th Street and St. Nicholas Avenue to 5th Avenue, where we'll have 3 stages. St. Nicholas main stage, and we're gonna honor somebody who some of you may not remember, a DJ with WBLS, Mr. Frankie Crocker. We'll be honoring the Chief Rocker, Frankie Crocker, and make sure you come out because there you go, there you go, there you go, there you go. We're looking forward to seeing you come out from 12 p.m. to 7 p.m. and we'll be celebrating some of the great hits that Frankie used to play, whether it was Aretha Franklin, Stevie Wonder, or Bob Marley. And that show is going to be topped off by our producer, Mr. Ray Chu, and the Harlem Music Festival All-Stars. So for some of you 30-year-olds like Derek Brown, we got ASAP Ferg out there. We're gonna have Nat Adderley Jr. and much, much more. So make sure you come out tomorrow, find out more about what we're doing as we hit the Harlem streets. But don't forget, we have Broadway that we're gonna honor on Harlem Day. Center Stage, MJ the Musical, Moulin Rouge, It's a Wonderful World, and Hell's Kitchen. So don't forget to come out on Harlem Day this Sunday. Pay attention to the Hip Hop Hall of Fame on 5th Avenue and make sure you support our children who are getting scholarships on that day. So again, my name is Winston Majette, and please visit www.harlemweek.com and find out more about Harlem Week and its 50th anniversary. Thank you very much, Black Health Matters.
All right, you guys got a busy weekend ahead. Lots going on uptown. It is time for us to kick off our first session this morning.
A little bit of housekeeping.
Okay, go ahead.
Hello, everyone. So listen, I know you all were out there, and we have my friends over here ask, what time is breakfast? That's a great question. We are going to start passing it out, but I please ask you, especially my folks over on this side of the room, can you all hear me? Please be respectful of the presenters. Let's not make a lot of noise. We will make sure you get your breakfast, but please, let's be quiet and be respectful. So, what is it? Clap once, clap twice, clap 3 times. All right, let's please keep our voices down so everyone can hear the important messages that are coming up. Thank you.
Okay, so our first session this morning is the role of democracy in shaping Black health outcomes, fitting during an election year. I would like to welcome first Ambassador Norman Eisen to the stage. The ambassador is retired, but he is representing the State of Democracy Defenders Fund. He's also a senior fellow at Brookings and a leading expert on law, ethics, and anti-corruption. Known for his analysis on the trials of former President Donald Trump, he frequently comments on CNN and the New York Times, and he played a key role in Trump's impeachment and served as U.S. ambassador to the Czech Republic. Also this session, we have with us Allegra Lawrence Hardy. She is a powerhouse litigator known for her innovative thinking and tenacity. Allegra has defended Fortune 100 companies globally and co-founded Lawrence & Bundy, which is a boutique commercial litigation firm. In addition to being a leader in the legal profession, Allegra is also a prolific author and sought-after speaker. If you guys could try and keep it down a little bit. Again, our speakers, Ambassador Norman Eisen, Allegra Lawrence Hardy, and the subject of this session, the role of democracy in shaping Black health. Dr. Eisen, do you want to get started?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Wow. You know, Allegra, they had to pack this room with energy to get ready to hear from 2 lawyers. I think it's cruel that you all haven't had your breakfast yet. You got to hear from the lawyers. So we want you to, because it's very important to health to have a good breakfast. So don't hold back on enjoying while we talk. And I have to say, I loved the beginning of this conference. It was better than I'd go to a lot of conferences. Let's give Ross Daniels a big hand and I'm getting that musical artist to do one of those tracks for me and Allegra when we go around. I'm not joking. When we go around the country talking about democracy. So we know you're excited to get to this topic. It is a very important one. We're very honored to go on after Yusuf Salaam because he was one of the first to see the danger to our democracy represented by the orange one. He was one of the first. And we talked about that backstage. All right, Allegra, let's chat with our friends on the topic of democracy. It's on everybody's mind 80 days before an election.
80 days before an election. So why are we here to talk about democracy and voting when you're here to talk about Black health outcomes? Because we know that there is a direct impact on our income outcomes, on what happens in our community and our health care based on democracy. So we're going to spend a few minutes talking with you all today about how democracy is necessary for maximizing Black health outcomes. We're going to talk about how the democratic process itself affects outcomes and the relationship between voting and Black health outcomes. We'll talk about how democracy affects our society, which of course impacts our direct access to health care. And then we'll talk about what may or may not happen in 2025 and beyond based on the outcome of this election. So let's first talk about democracy. It's not just voting, although as Norm says, with 80 days to go, voting is on all of our minds. I know, I saw that line out here this morning, so I know everybody here is already a super voter. Am I correct? I could tell when I walked up. I was in a room full of super voters. I love it. But we know that it's not enough for us to be the super voters, right? We know we have to make sure we have a plan for everyone in our lives. And I mean the young people, the not young people, the people you encounter on the street, to have a plan for voting. Why? Because democracy is not just about voting, it's about making sure that every one of us has a chance to live a healthy life. So these are tools, of course, that impact our health. First of all, representation, so incredibly important, right? In a democracy, we get to elect representatives who understand our unique health challenges, right? You just heard from a city councilman who you know understands the health challenges we all face. His family has engaged and dealt with those health challenges. If we want our leaders to know why it's important that diabetes medicine be affordable, for example, or why it's important that we can have the COVID vaccine, for example, why it's important that breast cancers that affect Black communities in a disproportionate number continue to be available and that those treatments are invested in research, we have to tell our representatives. We also get to advocate, right? We have to advocate through the democratic process for these specific policies and for leaders who support our policies. Democracy also provides a framework for all of our civil rights in healthcare. We know about health disparities. We know about all the ways in which healthcare policy can discriminate against Black and brown communities. And so this gives us an opportunity through democracy to advocate for those changes. Democracy also allows for some accountability, right? We get to actually hold our public officials accountable so that when they're doing what we need them to do, we can re-elect them. And when they're not, we vote them out, right? We vote them out. It allows for transparency, allowing us to understand what the government is and is not doing on our health care. It allows us to be engaged. Democracy allows us to participate in local government meetings, to show up and march, right? To sign petitions, to do all the things that I know the people in this room do to advocate for the health care for our communities. And of course, Norm, voters get mobilized, right, around this process to engage in democracy.
We need that voter mobilization because that is the foundation of American democracy. With all of its ups and downs, with all of its imperfections, allowing Black communities to influence the election of leaders who prioritize our democracy, who prioritize genuine American values, not the fake version that some people are pushing, and who prioritize Black health. That is how we can improve our democracy. We can take another step towards the as yet unrealized and imperfect vision of where we want to go as a country. Voter mobilization efforts ensure that issues like affordable health care and health disparities are front and center during elections. And if I could go back to the last slide, I want to show you that graph, because what you see here is the correlation between democracy outcomes like voter turnout, same-day voter registration, voting by mail, and restoration of voting rights to returning citizens. That's what Allegra and I work on together all day long, every day. We were just planning a new lawsuit backstage to fight for y'all's voting rights. That's right. But if you look at those virtues of American democracy, they actually track, if you look on the two sides of the line, they also track with health outcomes like infant mortality, availability of health insurance, self-reports on health and on mental health, and states that are more repressive on voting, including on black voting, like Mississippi and Alabama, where you have to fight harder. In those same places, Allegra and I have found that the health outcomes are worse as well. So you can see the clear relationship between democracy matters, voting matters, and black health matters.
That's exactly right, Norm. Thank you so much. And so now when we look at how the democratic process affects these outcomes directly, it's in all of these areas, right? All of these areas. And we know that this is all of the determinants of black health. Are we having, as the councilman reminded us, life in our years? Is there public health investment in our communities, right? Are you seeing it in Harlem? Is there health literacy and education? Do people know what they need to stay healthy? Do they have the tools, like the mammogram screening, right, that's happening here today? Do they have the tools that they need to stay healthy? Environmental racism. I come here from Georgia, and I can tell you that there are things that happen in our communities in terms of waste being dumped and environmental hazards that don't happen in other communities. We have to be able to use the democratic process to protect our family from these environmental racist factors. Gun violence, we can't talk about health without talking about gun violence and the way that it affects our children, our communities, right? Incredibly important. The economic disparities, particularly as we see them in housing and the way that that impacts black health. If you don't have secure housing, it's very hard to stay healthy. Mental health crises that we're all so aware of. What is the investment in our community on mental health? Maternal mortality, an incredible, incredible problem. It seems beyond belief that in 2024 we're still talking about this issue, yet we know it's as real as it's ever been for our communities, and that we need investment in protecting our mothers. And then, of course, Medicaid and Medicare access, right? Expanding these things, making sure they're affordable, making sure that all in our community have access to health care, because again, that is how we make sure we don't just survive, but we thrive.
So, what does that mean for each and every one of us? We have 81 days until the election, when, as you just heard from Allegra, we will elect leaders who will put these policies in place. And there's good policy, and then there's Project 2025. That's right. And Donald Trump is trying to walk away from Project 2025 because we caught him. He said the quiet part out loud. His advisors wrote Project 2025. He has endorsed and embraced Kevin Roberts, who's the head of Heritage that pushed Project 2025, and J.D. Vance, as I call him, Junior Varsity. J.D. Vance actually wrote the foreword for the book by Kevin Roberts, endorsing these policies. Let me tell you, they will not be good for black health, they will not be good for anybody's health, and they certainly will not be good for the health of democracy. And that is why we're gonna wrap up. We're gonna take a couple questions, so get ready. If you have a minute to ask a question, Allegra and I want to hear from you. But on issues like reproductive health access, Medicaid, DEI, fighting DEI is fighting black health. So on those issues, we need your voice. But we're not going to end, Allegra, with scary comments about Project 2025. No, because this summit is about uplifting what we believe in and what we work on together. And Allegra and I are so honored to be a part of it. Really, we feel the energy. I felt the energy when I pulled up to the Alhambra Ballroom and I saw the hundreds of people, and y'all waited. Here you are. That is the energy that we need to bring to our elections, to bring to our voting, to infuse our democracy with that power to improve black health outcomes. So through representation, accountability, civic engagement, and voting, everybody voting, we're gonna do that. Allegra, I'll give you the last word before we take some questions.
I'm just going to add, you already know, everybody in here is a super voter. I know that, right? Because you were in line at 7:45 this morning. You're super voters, right? So this is not just for you to file it away. I know my friends brought their notepad. They told me they were taking notes. You got it. Take your notes, but then let's figure out how we can challenge each other to spread the word. Because as much as we are all super voters, we all know people who are not super voters. We need to make sure the young people in our lives understand our health outcomes are in their hands, right? What happens to us, if they want us to have life in our years, if they want us to survive and thrive as a community, we are putting ourselves in their hands. They have to be super voters too. They have to do whatever it takes to make sure that in 81 days, their votes are counted. And they will do it because you asked them to, right? So we're gonna all leave here with lots of things. We're gonna commit to our mammograms, and we're gonna commit to eating better and exercise and all the things. But one of the things we're gonna commit to each other on, actually, let's just take a moment. Everybody turn to somebody next to you, to the right, and say, I commit. Right? I commit. I commit. You are committing. Go get your voters. You tell them, you don't have to tell them how to vote. You just make sure they know we are putting our future in their hands. We'll take any questions you may have.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
So my name is Crystal, and I'd like to thank the people who, every person that put this thing together. I want to say thank you. The sister that I think her grandmother died in the hospital, the main lady in the blue. I'm sorry if I don't have her name. Rosalind? Okay. I want to say this. When I was online, out of all these people, I counted 4 young people. And whenever we have activities in our community, it's always the over 50 crowd. Now, don't get it twisted, because I'm over 50 myself. But what we're going to have to do, just picture how it looked when you stood outside. Picture how it looked when we had to come in here. How the people who organized this thing tried to do it to the best of their ability. There should have been a larger venue. There could have been a larger venue. It could have been more organized. But the problem with us is we don't get involved. So now all of a sudden, you got Orange Man and you got what's called a black woman, and everybody's thinking she's the savior. Well, guess what? You walked through piss, through garbage, through homeless people. The list goes on and on that you walked through to get here. These are our communities. And until we realize that we have to get involved, all of these organizations that's out here, these housing projects with their tenant associations, and the list goes on, our community boards, and all of this kind of stuff, these people are at the table. I'm going to say one more thing. They tell us that if you don't have a seat at the table, you're on the menu. Well, guess what? Guess what? The people that's not at the table are the ones that's doing the work, because I'm one of them. The ones at the table get in, they don't deal with the regular people, they go to the so-called leadership. So, case in point, I appreciate everything that's taking place today, but we got to get involved. It can't just be the over 50 crowd. We got to touch them young people.
Miss Crystal, I think you agree with me, right? We need to get the young people out.
Thank you. Elijah, do you have a question?
Yes, good greetings, everybody. Good to see everybody. And she's right about the young people not being at this event. There's a bunch of seasoned citizens. I'm one myself, seasoned, not a senior citizen, seasoned citizen. That's a new one, y'all. But wait a minute, let me get to the point. Biden said he wants Kamala Harris to win presidency. There's one thing he can do to make that a reality. Step down as president. Good bus. She died, and the orange man voted 3 judges and to overturn Roe v. Wade so she could step down. She would be president overnight, be the first black woman president, and she was sure to, but wait a minute, Trump got a Trump card. It's called Electoral College. Thank you.
Questions about democracy and
All right,
healthcare.
but we will.
Okay. We have an actual question. We
can
appreciate
y'all
all the
hear me?
input, and we know there will be lots of interesting discussions going on.
Hi, can you hear me? Okay. I would like to know. I need everyone's to. I would like to know if there is more advocacy regarding early detection when it comes to mammograms and cervical cancer. I just want to know if there's more of, if there's any. A lot of people are putting it where you have to be a certain age to go for mammograms. I was 27 years old when I found the lump in my breast. So I'm wanting to know if we're moving back the age of where you can go for that at early.
So I'll speak to that if I may, because I think a very similar issue with that is that women of color often need, I'll just speak to my own mammogram, women of color often need a 3D mammogram, for example, to be able to really detect, right? So we need a different level sometimes of service. These are exactly the kinds of issues that we can address in a democracy, right? We take those to our elected officials. We take that to our different policy organizations. And that is why it's so important. So I agree with you. We have been hearing lots of suggestions that those mammograms occur earlier and earlier, right? Particularly when we have certain risk factors. But it is hard for some people to get them covered by insurance. And so what we can do, the reason democracy is so important is we have the ability to advocate for those changes. So I will be right there advocating with you. We gotta just keep voting.
It needs to happen because, again, it could have turned left for me. I'm 53 now.
Yes.
And I'm thankful that, I caught it when I did.
Me too. I'm so glad you're here to have this conversation. And such a reminder for all of us, right, to get our regular mammograms. Thank you.
All right, we have time for one more last question. Last question.
I don't think the organizers, you want us to do one last question. All right, last one.
My question is, I've heard a lot about the Project 2025. I would just like to know, where can you go to get more information on 2025?
Oh, yes. The question was, where do we go to get more information on Project 2025? And I'm going to answer that question and take advantage of the moment to thank you all on behalf of me and Allegra. I love the passion of those two initial questioners. I was very flattered to be included among the 4 young people in line. One of the very exciting thing that is happening on the youth front is that Kamala Harris and Tim Walz are turbocharging the youth voters. So there's a moment now, and I'll take that energy we heard from our first two questioners and turn it back on y'all. You have that network. Talk to those young people. You're the network in this room. We talked to some folks before we came on. It's a nationwide network of friends and family. Don't only focus on New York. Reach out to your networks. This election is for all the marbles. Finally, to answer the very good question, where can you go to get that information? Right here in New York, New York University hosts a website that I co-edit, the American Autocracy Threat Tracker, and we break down all of the threats of Donald Trump, of Project 2025 and his allies, including the harms to black health and to all our health and the health of democracy. We're so grateful you had us here today. We're gonna get our breakfast now, and we're gonna hang around, come over and say hello. Thank you, Black Health Matters. Thank you, Harlem. Thank you, New York.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Ambassador Eisen. Thank you, Allegra Lawrence Harvey. All right, a little something different right now. Whenever Deshaun Johnson, also known as the guru of abs, is in town, you know it's going to be an incredible experience. His journey into the world of fitness started 11 years ago at LA Fitness in Atlanta. As a resolute group fitness instructor and personal trainer, Deshaun is on a mission to transform lives through fitness and nutrition, so get ready to ignite your inner strength and power your core. Deshaun Johnson.
All right, Harlem, let's make some noise. Good morning. All right, everybody, let's stand up, let's stand up, let's stand up. Microphone a little louder. Everybody, good morning. Let's stand up, ladies and gentlemen. Let's stand up. Let's stand up. We have 15 minutes of activation and blood flow. My name is Deshaun Johnson, the Guru of Abs. Today, I'm going to take you guys through a low-impact workout called Senior Body Sculpting. All right, you can do this from the seated or standing position. Sound man, let's roll. All right, so we're going to keep it very simple because we're tight on space, all right? I need everybody to hold both hands out just like so. Both hands out. All right, so the way this works, we're going to count as a group, all right? Once we go past 10, we go back to 1. We're going to hold the palms out. We're going to squeeze our hands, and we're going to open. Very simple. A little louder, please. A little louder. A little louder. A little louder on the microphone. All right. Check 1, 2. All right, here we go. Let's hold our hands out. Let's go to work. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Here we go. Let's count. Squeeze. 1. I need to hear you count. 2. Little louder. Not loud enough. There we go. Good morning. Squeeze. 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 Back to 1. 1. Squeeze. 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 Last one. All right, shake your hands out. So once again, since we're tight on space, I'm gonna improvise best as I can, all right? Let's hold our hands out. We're gonna do a basic hand rotation. Here we go. In 3, 2, 1, let's turn. Turn. 1, let me hear you. 2, turn. 3, turn. 4, now if you're standing, 5, bend your knees. 6, turn. 7, turn. 8, turn. 9, turn. 10, last 5. 1, turn. 2, turn, 3, turn, 4. Last one. Give yourselves a hand. All right, I'm gonna keep it simple, okay? I know you guys don't want to sweat too much. Let's put our hands across our chest. Now, if you're seated, you can come to the edge of your seat just a little bit. We're gonna go side to side, working your lower obliques. Follow me. We're gonna go right to left. All right, everybody ready? Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Let's roll. Side. 1. Let me hear you, Harlem. We can do better than that. There we go. 4, side, 5, side, 6, come on, 7, side, 8, side, 9, side, 10, last 5, 1, side, 2, side, 3, side, 4, last one. Now stay right there, don't move, hands across. Let's bring those elbows up. So we're gonna work our tricep muscles. This is the back of your arm. I need you to follow my lead. Hands out. 3, 2, 1. Let's reach. Reach. 1. Reach. 2. I can't hear you count. 3. I need some energy. Good morning again. Reach. 6. Reach. 7. Reach. 8. Reach. 9. Reach. 10. 10 more. 1. Reach. 2, reach. 3, reach. 4, reach. 5, last 5. 6, reach. 7, reach. 8, reach. 9, last one. Give yourselves a hand. Great job. All right, I need you to follow me. I'm gonna keep this safe and simple, all right? Let's put your hands out. Follow me. We're gonna squeeze, open, turn, back. Squeeze, open, turn, 1. Squeeze, open, turn, 2. Let's do it. Squeeze, open, turn. Wait. Let's get on the same page, okay? Let's get on the same page. All right, pause the music, pause the music, pause the music. Pause the music for me, pause the music. All right, I need you guys to repeat after me. Working out is not always physical. It's part mental. I need you to follow my lead, okay? Repeat after me, hands out. Squeeze, open, turn, 1. Squeeze, open, turn, 2. Squeeze, open, turn, 3. Squeeze, open, turn, 4. Squeeze, open, turn. 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 Give yourselves a hand. You can cut the music back on. All right, you guys ready? I got you up now. You guys ready? All right, let's put the hands across the chest. So simple combination once again. We on limited space, so I'm gonna keep this as innovative as possible. All right, elbows up. Once again, follow me. Reach, turn, back. I got you. Reach, turn, back. 1. Reach, turn, back. 2. Let's go. Reach, turn, back. 3. Reach, turn, back. 4. Reach, turn, back. 5. Reach, turn, back. 6. Reach, turn, back. 7. Reach, turn, back. 8. Reach, turn, back. 9. Reach, turn, back. 10. Reach, turn, back. 1. Reach, turn, back. 2. Reach, turn, back. 3. 2 more. Reach, back, turn. 4. Reach, turn, back. 5. Give yourselves a hand. Great job, great job. All right, give me a little music on the volume, a little volume on the music. All right, so now we're gonna do alternating hand punches, okay? I need everybody to put your hands up like so. Now, be very simple, okay? We're gonna punch with the left hand first. All right, don't hit nobody. 3. Wait, that's a bad idea. Wait a minute. I'm looking around the room. Wait a minute. All right, let's put the hands right here. We're gonna go straight up. Now, if you have a shoulder limitation, you're gonna go just like this. That means you can't go above your head, all right? You're gonna do a shoulder shrug. Everybody else, touchdown sign. Let's go straight up. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Let's roll. Keep it tight. Up. 1. Stay in your space. 2. Now we working. 3. I can't hear y'all, Harlem. What number? Up. Little louder. There we go. Hey, let's go. 9. Up. 10. 10 more. 1. Up. 2. Up. 3. Up. 4. 10 more. 5. Up. 6. Up. 7. Up. 8. Up. 9. Up. 10. Last 5. 1. Up. 2. 3 more. 2 more. Last one. Give yourselves a hand. Great job. All right, let's do some rotational twists. Everybody take your hands, interlock your fingers. Now let's bring those elbows in tight. All right, I need you to keep your eyes on your hands. We're gonna turn right, left, right, left. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Let's go. Turn. 1. Watch your hands. 2. Turn. 3. Turn. 4. Turn. 5. Turn. 6. Turn. 7. Turn. 8. Turn. 9. Turn. 10. Last 5. 1. Turn. 2. Turn. 3. Turn. 4. Last one. Give yourselves a hand. Great job. All right, I'm keeping it simple. All right, let's hold those hands straight out. All right, so we're gonna work our hands and our back. We're gonna do a simple pull and squeeze. Pull and squeeze. 3, 2, 1. Let's pull. Pull. 1. Pull. 2. I don't hear y'all, Harlem. There we go. I need them to hear you outside. What number? Pull. That's what I like. Let's go. 9. Pull. 10 more. Keep going. Pull. Pull. What number? Pull. 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 Keep going. Pull. 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 Last one. Give yourselves a hand. Great job. Great job. All right, we doing okay? We doing okay? All right, now let's put our hands across our chest once again. We're gonna work one side of the body. Left side, right side, all right? Left side only. Side, center. You see, follow me. Side, stop. Side. There we go. 3, 2, 1. Give me 10. Side. 1. Side. 2. Relax your core. 3. Bend your knees. 4. Side. 5. Side. 6. Side. 7. Side. 8. Side. 9. Side. Stop. 3, 2, 1. To the right. Let's go. Side. 1. You got it. 2. Side. 3. What number? Side. 5. Side. 6. Side. 7. Side. 8. Side. 9. Side. Stop. Y'all ready? Right to left. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Side to side. Side. 1. Side. 2. Side. 3. Side. 4. Keep going. 5. Side. 6. Side. 7. Side. 8. Side. 9. Side. 10. Last 5. 1. Side. 2. Side. 3. Side. 4. Last one. Give yourselves a hand. Give yourselves a hand. All right, talk to me. We doing good? We doing good? All right, all right. Now let's put our hands up. We're gonna do an alternating front shoulder press. Remember, if you have a shoulder limitation, I need your hands by your side. This is your modification. Everybody else that feel comfortable, we're gonna go one arm up at a time, all right? I'm gonna say up, down, up, one. Everybody ready? All right, hands up, here we go. Left hand first, ball your hand up. 3, 2, 1, let's roll. Open, down, up, 1, up, down, up, 2, let's go. Up, down, up, 3, up, down, up, 4. What number? Up, down, not yet. 6, up, down, up, 7, up, down. Now watch me. 8, up, down, up, 9. Once we get to 10, both hands, let's roll. Up, 1, way to catch it. 2, up, 3, up, 4, up, 5 more. 6, up, 7, up, 8, up, 9. Guess what? Last 5. Up, 1, up, 2, up, 3. 4 minutes. 4. Last one. Give yourselves a hand. Give yourselves a hand. All right, we're going to start to cool down. Let's put our hands up right here. Let's put our hands up. All right, let's bring them in. Let's bring them in nice and tight. Nice and tight. All right, now bring those palms together. Palms together. We got to go to the side. Side, center, side. Let's roll. Side, 1, side, 2, side, 3, side, 4. If you're standing, 5, bend your knees. 6, relax your core. 7, side, 8, side, 9, side, 10, side, 1, side, 2, side, 3, side, 4. Last one. Don't move. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Let's roll. Side, 1, side, 2, side, 3. What number? Little louder. Side, 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 side. Last 5. Side, side, side. Last one. Give yourselves a hand. All right, here we go. Let's put both hands up. Now, we're not going to punch straight out. We're going to go one arm at a time. We're going to punch up at an angle. Up, 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 up. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Left hand, let's go. Up, 1, up, 2. What number? 3, up, 4, up, 5. I like it. 6, up, 7, up, 8. 2 minutes left. 9, up, 10. Last 5. 1, up, 2, up, 3, up, 4. Last one. Give yourselves a hand. All right, I'm finna cool you down. I need everybody to put your hand on your core. Take a deep breath in. Exhale. All right, you can pause the music. We're done with the music. All right, so now I want you to focus on controlling your heart rate. Inhale through your nose, exhale through your mouth. Everybody take a deep breath in. Exhale. When you feel yourself start to be out of sync, you need to gather yourself. Take a deep breath in. Exhale. All right, let's stretch. You guys enjoy yourself so far? Let's make some noise for Black Health Matters for putting this together. Amazing, amazing. Make some noise for yourself this morning. There we go. All right, let's put our left hand on our shoulder. Our left hand on our shoulder. Now, I will count. I just need you to focus on breathing. Take a deep breath in. As you exhale, take your left ear down. I will count to 10. Hold it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right. Let's take the right hand on the left shoulder. Take a deep breath in. Let's exhale. No, Siri, no. Take it down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Give yourselves a hand. You can have a seat. You can have a seat. All right, ladies and gentlemen, once again, my name is Deshaun Johnson. I am from Atlanta, Georgia. Today's workout was a sample of senior body sculpting. Senior body sculpting. All right, thank you, thank you. Senior body sculpting was created in honor of my grandparents that I lost 7 years ago, 30 days apart. And we've been doing this free program for 6 years since the pandemic. Starting next Wednesday, you guys can join me and my virtual seniors every Wednesday on Black Health Matters Facebook and YouTube page. 2 workouts, 9 a.m. and 10:30. We have senior body sculpting and our new program, Muscles After 50 for men 50 and up, all right? So I'll be back again for another workout. If you have questions, pull me. I'll be around here, but I think I'll be back at 12:15. It was an honor to stand before you guys. I thank you. I love you. Have a great day. Woo!
Deshaun Johnson. Can you guys hear me? All right. Deshaun Johnson, he was great, right? So we're going to kick off our second session, and this session is titled How We Can Overcome Barriers to Access and Why It's Important, and we've got 3 panelists for this session. The first panelist, Stacey Hargraves. She is the Vice President of Innovative Health and Advocacy at Johnson & Johnson, leading a global team to enhance clinical trial experiences. Stacey has a stellar career in biopharma, including roles at Regeneron and pharmaceutical product development. Also on this panel, Diane Nathaniel. Diane is a stage 3 colon cancer survivor and enthusiastic advocate. As an ambassador, constituent team leader with the American Cancer Society Cancer Action Network, she fights for accessible health care for all. Diane co-founded Beat Stage 3 Inc. to raise cancer awareness, and she leads the Village Lighthouse Inc. to support patients navigating the healthcare system. We are also thrilled to have Dr. Davida J. White with us on this panel today. She is a healthcare leader with a rich career spanning government, academia, and the biopharmaceutical industry. She's currently leading the cardiovascular and metabolism field medical affair team at Johnson & Johnson. Please welcome Stacey Hargraves, Diane Nathaniel, and Dr. Davida J. White.
Hello?
We have to get at the board. We're going to unmute you guys.
Good morning.
There we go.
I have the pleasure of sitting with 2 phenomenal women today to talk about early detection and really how we as a community can overcome those barriers to access. So, Diane, very nice to have you and see you today. Can you tell us about your colon cancer journey from a patient to an advocate?
Good morning, everyone. So amazing to see so many beautiful Black people in one space caring about their health. So I hope you learned something from my journey. I was diagnosed at age 44, March 7, 2014. And then the screening age was 50. A colonoscopy saved my life. I definitely did not take a colonoscopy exam just because, but I actually went in for a shoulder surgery. and they recognized that my blood levels for my hemoglobin were level 4. How many of us know what the hemoglobin is? Raise your hand. What does it do? Do you know your levels? The average person doesn't. We take blood draws, we get these panels done, and we only look for what's normal and what is abnormal. But we don't really know what our range means and what it should be for it to be a healthy state for us. Backing up to 10 years prior to me being diagnosed, I complained to doctors about chronic constipation, chronic fatigue. I complained about a rapid weight loss, and I was age 34 at that time. And I felt like all of my complaints were ignored. Everything was related to, oh, your cycle, your breastfeeding. I had just had my second daughter. And so for 10 years, complaining about some of these issues that most of us as Black people align with our diets and, oh, it's the way we eat, but we don't consider that those things are always not the best things for us. Those symptoms sometimes go ignored. I was prescribed iron pills. How many of us hear that? You're anemic, take some iron pills. And then when you complain that the iron pills constipate you, they say, well, take a Colace tablet. So I feel like no one ever dug deep enough, tested me in another way to find out what else was wrong. I later learned that it takes a polyp 7 to 10 years to turn into cancer. So imagine at age 44, when at age 34 I complained about the same things, they told me this was going to be my fate. I had rectal bleeding one day, but because my cycle was coming, ladies, we bleed from 2 sources. Men, sorry, gonna be transparent. So I thought my cycle was coming twice a month. I had been bleeding. This specific day, I didn't have a colonoscopy appointment for 2 weeks, but I bled before I could get to that GI doctor. She invited me in. She did something called an anoscopy. So for some of you who are afraid to move right to the colonoscopy, an anoscopy is done in the office with a scope. It's minimal, it's not invasive, and it's just so the doctor could see right then and there what is going on. She noticed that I had some residual blood and that I did have some backup, which she couldn't identify if it was a tumor or stool. So I had the colonoscopy, and she woke me up and told me I had Charlie Brown was in my head. Something, 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 carcinoma, adenoma. So it was like womp, womp, womp. Did you just tell me I have cancer at age 44? I had to have an immediate surgery, removing the cecum part of my colon, 14 lymph nodes, and my appendix, followed by 12 rounds of chemotherapy over a course of 8 months for 48 hours every 2 weeks. I am left infertile. I have neuropathy in my fingertips and my toes. So for those of you who don't understand how important it is, because colon cancer is one of the most beatable and treatable cancers, preventive care and screening will save your life. If you are sitting here and you are age 45 and older, you need to have your first colonoscopy. Please don't let the doctors talk you out of it. Symptoms include chronic constipation. It's something that we battle with as a culture because of the way we eat, because of stress. We carry stress in our guts. So you have to understand how important it is for you to be honest with your doctors and tell them what you're feeling so that you don't sit in pain and suffering for no reason at all. If you need care and that doctor is not being kind to you, not being respectful to you, not treating you with dignity, when you are making your issues present, it is for you to treat them like the boyfriend or the girlfriend you break up with because they don't do the right thing. Find a new doctor. Okay? And research your doctors the same way you research the new iPhone that's coming out. What's gonna be new about that iPhone 15? The same way we go on Yelp and get reviews about the next new restaurant. You need to do that with your health care, and you need to take the same care with yourself for those doctors and hold them accountable. So I'm glad to say I am 10 years cancer-free. And I've become an advocate because of it. I actually wrote an email to the CDC, and in the mail comes a letter from President Obama and Joe Biden back in 2015 saying that they had received this message. I am not kidding. It's like, I thought it was a joke, a hoax. I didn't open that envelope for like 2 weeks, saying that they appreciated me sharing my story and that March 15, 2015 was going to be the month that they celebrate Colorectal Cancer Month. So now Colorectal Cancer Month is in March. And I want you to please, please, please raise awareness from this meeting that we have today. And I hope something I've shared is helpful to you.
Thank you so much for sharing your story. I do believe as a community we get better when we talk to each other, when we share our health experiences, when we share how we have selected our doctors or what we found. We know that we talk to each other each and every day. So sometimes I think it's really important that we listen and therefore action when it comes to our health. Dr. White, and I'm gonna call you Dr. White because I want to honor all of our Black physicians that we talked to today. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and experience, and more importantly, what the role of early screening from your perspective?
Good morning, everyone. I am, again, Dr. Davita White. I am so happy to be with you all here in Harlem. I'm from Virginia Beach, Virginia. By education, I am, oh, we have some Virginians? All right, all right. By education, I am an obstetrician, gynecologist, and as mentioned before, I currently work at Johnson & Johnson. Which is a thrill for me. J&J is committed to bringing innovative medicines to patients and also to closing health disparity gaps. You asked me about early screening. Early screening is really important, and you have to have these conversations with your doctors. Usually, whenever we have a disease process in our bodies, whether it's cancer or something less serious, when it's starting, you may not always have signs or symptoms. So that's where screening comes in, and we can find things early enough that we can treat you. You have more treatment options, and if it's something more serious, your survival rates will be much better, and maybe even there's a cure. So it's important that you have these conversations with your physicians about screening.
Thank you so much for that. I'm going to turn back to Diane for a minute. I'll get back to it. When you think about, we all have people in our family, right, who don't go to the doctor, have a lot of reasons why they don't. Can you talk about, from your experience, some of the stories you hear about the why? What's preventing us to really go and get tested to make sure that we have early access to certain therapies?
Okay, a few of the things that I hear when I'm in the community, I do a lot of tabling, I do a lot of events like this. One of the main drawbacks or reluctance that people share why they don't go to the doctors, and one thing I mentioned, where they don't feel treated with dignity. Often we walk into the office and we get blamed for being sick. Now sometimes people just don't know, right? I didn't know, I'm well educated. It didn't mean that, you know, I was uneducated. Why would I think I had colon cancer? Right? It's thought of as an old person's disease. It was never discussed in our family. And if someone had passed away, y'all are sitting here, you know what I'm talking about. We don't share the health history of family members. Everything's a big secret. And we have to stop that, because withholding that information is killing a generation ahead of us. So think about that when you're sitting around the table at Thanksgiving, when you're sitting around the table at Christmas or birthdays or the cookout. It's okay to have those conversations about health, because you may not have a next barbecue. You may not share it next Christmas. If you don't give this information, and sharing it with young people is also very important. And I find that people share it's uncomfortable having this conversation about health. Some people are embarrassed. And other people say they don't feel heard when they walk into the doctor's office, or the doctor is speaking in a way that they can't understand what they're saying. So they rather not go. And I think the last reason is they feel afraid of the results. A lot of times we know something is wrong, and we won't go to the doctor because we don't want to hear what they're going to tell us. Insurance may not cover it, so you don't even want to think about hearing, I might need this surgery or I might need this procedure, and my insurance isn't going to cover it. So I find that we create sometimes these narratives in our head that don't exist, because maybe if you did share, we would get some answers that could help you. This Black Health Matters Summit, there's a vending room. I would encourage everyone to take information. So if you're sitting here feeling what I'm expressing right now, if you feel ashamed, embarrassed, if you feel like you're not going to get any assistance, I think this is the place that you could get most of the assistance that you need. So those are just a few of the things. And I didn't want to forget the day off from work. People cannot take days off from work to go to the doctor, but we will not take a day off feeling sick to go to work. Think about that. So we have to change how we're treated in our workspaces. And once you put your own health first, they will follow. But as long as you come to work sick, they're never going to let you take that day off sick. So I want us to do better once we know better.
Thank you so much for those recommendations. So we are ready, we are armed, we're walking into the doctor's office. From your perspective, Dr. White, what does that healthcare provider need to do to help us to talk about and understand early access and early detection?
I think it's important for your healthcare provider to provide education. If you do have a diagnosis, you need to make sure you're having conversations to understand what's going on with you, what's happening with my body, and to also understand what your treatment options are. They're also responsible to understand what your barriers are. So you mentioned some of the barriers. They could be emotional or cultural barriers. Fear is a big issue. Afraid of the test, afraid of finding out the results of the test. There are confidentiality concerns that people are also worried about. You may have had a history of abuse, which makes you shy away from certain tests. Also, there are practical barriers that are in place: cost, transportation. There may be a disability that makes it difficult for you to access the tests. And then also knowledge barriers and personal relevance, believing that that disease can't affect me, that issue is not my issue, it's not a part of my family history, not having appropriate knowledge of your family history. So I think with your relationship with your doctor, it's important that you all communicate, partner, and they need to understand what your barriers are. If it's a cost barrier, maybe there's another treatment option that they can offer to you. And I think the last thing is building trust. And you mentioned that today, that there is a lack of trust in some situations. But we need to also be a part of that partnership. And if you don't feel like you trust your physician, then that person is not the person for you.
Yes, thank you for that. So we often, at Johnson & Johnson, we often talk about meeting patients where they are in the community. We often talk about developing medicines that reflect the community and the patients we intend to serve. And it just, as you were speaking, I was thinking, Diane, of the clinical trial journey. And if you were offered an option and different care options that we see along the paradigm, can you talk a little bit about your experience?
I did not have the luxury of a clinical trial. I couldn't participate. 10 years ago, the advancements that have been made to treat colorectal cancer, stage 3 specifically, have definitely come a long way. There was a standard treatment that I took. There were 3 medications, and this was it. I actually had to ask about a clinical trial. One of my friends that I was doing chemotherapy with was in a trial. And I later learned that there's a criteria to be considered for the trials. So everybody just doesn't get access. Back then, there was no representation, or I should say, like lack of representation of black people participating in clinical trials. Since then, there has been the Henrietta Lacks bill that has been introduced to Congress, which I had the pleasure of introducing to Chuck Schumer's office 2 years ago when we went to lobby at Cancer Day with American Cancer Society. And that bill is to make sure that black people are represented in clinical trials. I think we're apprehensive about them because of the Henrietta Lacks story and the Tuskegee Institute experiment. So there are a few things and ways that we've been mistreated. But I'm here to tell you that if I had that option, I would have taken it. There's no way I wanted to do chemotherapy that long, live with these results, and have to suffer through all of these things that I'm left with for the rest of my life. The way neuropathy works when it's induced by chemo, whatever you're left with after a year is what you will have for the rest of your life. So think about that. It took 8 months for these medications to wipe out my reproductive system and cause nerve damage. So I'm employing you to participate if you have the opportunity. I asked my doctor and he said I was not a candidate. That specific trial, and trials are specific. I learned this going to get a public health degree. So it's not always a racial issue. Sometimes it's just we don't meet the criteria. So I was a person who only had colorectal cancer, and this trial was for someone who had gotten lung cancer and brain cancer after their colorectal cancer. So I didn't meet the criteria. But right now, there are plenty of trials that are existing out here, and you should ask your doctors about them. Hopefully, they'll begin to make more signage about it in the doctor's offices. But if you get a call from some of these places, I would implore you to listen, hear what they have to say, because you could be a candidate if they have them for heart disease, diabetes, like all the things we are affected with. So I didn't have the opportunity, but I definitely would have taken part in one if it was offered to me.
Great, thank you so much. One final question for Dr. White. What advice do you give to us as we walk into a physician's office with whatever ailment or disease or early detection option that we might want to talk about? What questions do we ask? How do we arm ourselves with information before we go in? And how is that physician looking at us as a patient? That should help drive the conversation versus rushing us out the door in 5 minutes. What does that experience need to be to make sure we get the information that we need?
I think we have to take charge of our health visits. You need to go in there armed with the questions that you want to ask. If you've been given a diagnosis, it is important that you understand that diagnosis and how it affects you. And also, you need to be very specific in asking, what are all of my treatment options? I think sometimes as physicians or healthcare providers, people understand your barriers. They think they understand your barriers. So based on that, they may offer you this option. But you need to be armed with all of the information so you can be a partner in that decision. And as we just heard, some of those options may include therapies that are still in development, but you want to be aware of that. But it also means that you need to do your own homework. Learn about your disease process. Come back, have questions. For a lot of us, it may be important to bring a care partner along, another family member, a daughter, a husband, to help you ask the right questions. And also, sometimes when we hear information that we're not expecting to hear, you miss really important parts of the conversation. So we want someone else there in the room to help listen for you. These are some really important things. And understand your screenings, right? There are a whole bunch. We talked about colorectal today. But if you're a woman, you want to know about your mammograms. You should be getting those every year, starting at 45. And then at 55, they move to every 2 years. Your pap smears, they should start around 21, 25. You need to get those every 3 years. There are HPV tests that you can get every 5 years, or some even in conjunction with the pap smear. For our gentlemen, you should get your prostate checked at 50 years of age. You need to start getting that done on an annual basis. But if you have a medical history or family history, that needs to be bumped up to 45. So you need to have a conversation about your whole entire medical history, and not just around the ailments that brought you into the office today, but what are some preventative things I can do to help keep me out of the office?
Great, thank you so much. So we heard a couple things. We know that early detection saves lives. We heard that being an empowered patient, really going in there informed and educating yourself. We learned that taking time with a physician may not want to take time with you, but you make sure you take time with them. We heard that you need to ask questions and make sure that you leave with information and then follow up. So I want to thank both of you for your time today. Thank you so much for sharing your patient journey. Thank you to Dr. White. If we have a couple of time, we might want to take 1 or 2 questions if anyone has anything.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you for that information. Unfortunately, my mother passed from colon cancer. I do get colonoscopies every 3 years. They have removed tubular adenomas, so as of now, I'm cleared. I have a 21 and a 23-year-old. When should I be telling them to insist to have their doctors give them a prescription for having a colonoscopy? Is it too early? Are they too young?
The guidelines say 45, but again, that's based on the average individual, and that does not take risk factors into consideration. So that's a very personal question. I think that's the opportunity you have to take to go in, have that conversation with your physician, make sure they understand your complete family history, what that disease course looked like for your family, and then you all can come up with a schedule that works for you.
I will always say, also say for me, since I did have cancer, my children have to be screened 10 years pre my diagnosis. So since I was diagnosed at 44, they all have to go at age 34.
Good morning, panel. First and foremost, I'd like to thank God, because God is good. I'm a 3-time breast cancer survivor myself. Yes, 3 times. And I want to know how we can encourage our younger generation to go and get the test, because a lot of women are so afraid of the pain, but it's worth the pain to know and to be at peace with yourself. How can we encourage them? Because it's just not going anywhere with the young people, and we should get it done at an earlier age. I was 50, and I had it every 6 years. I got it in 2008, 2014, 2020. I'm an advocate for plant-based eating. I do that. I lost 26 pounds. So, and we want to see our young women outside and doing what we need to do, but we got to be healthy to do it. So, what's your advice on that?
I think to educate, and don't give up. You know, Diane has shared her amazing journey and her testimony from going from a patient to an advocate, but we can be an advocate at home. We can be an advocate to our family members, you know, and be that voice, even though we may get on their nerves, to just continue to stress to them the importance of getting screened.
They call me the cancer bully in my neighborhood. I don't care. I do not care. I am always on any social media bothering people about a colonoscopy, all right? So don't give up. But I can tell you there are some organizations. Sister, Give Me Your Hand. Hear me? Sister, Give Me Your Hand is an organization Dr. Vivian B., who is an amazing breast oncologist. That organization will literally come pick you up and take you to your mammogram. So look them up. Look them up. There are organizations that will help our young folks if they're afraid, and you also need to be in a place that's caring, right? Who does like that hurts. That mammogram is a nightmare, and you know a man created it. Sorry, men. It definitely was not created by a woman. But that's one way, giving them resources, that they feel comfortable with, to take them.
Thank you. We have one last question. And by the way, this panel is sponsored by Johnson & Johnson Innovative Medicine. You can also go by their table if you have additional questions.
Good morning. My name is Charles Henry, and I have a testimony. God healed me from 3 cancers. I had kidney cancer, prostate cancer, and one of the abdomen called dermatofibrosarcoma. My question to you ladies is, what do we do to get the men to go to the doctor? The Holy Spirit healed me, but we need to get the fellas to go to the doctor. You know, because I'm gonna tell you, God is totally amazing. And all of y'all have testimonies. I'm gonna tell you something. I'm a part of the Montefiore Einstein family. I'm an advocate, I'm a bold buddy, and I'm a doula. So what I'm saying is we need to rely on God more, hang on to the word, and go to the doctor. That's all I gotta say.
Did you have a response?
I mean, it tugs on my heart as a mother of 3 sons, high school and college age. I understand, you know, the role that we play as mothers sometimes in being able to educate them and surround them. And I said the only thing I've been doing as a mother of 3 is making sure that they, you know, surround themselves with individuals who look like them, whether that's men's groups, prayer breakfasts, any way to really educate them and about their health and put their health first. But it's a journey. It's a journey with them to feel comfortable to ask questions. It's a journey with them to be vulnerable, to be able to educate themselves on the process or what they have their questions about. But I think it takes a village. We all know it takes a village to raise these kids. And I would say that, you know, each and one of us play a role, whether you have a son or you don't have a son, whether you have a cousin or a neighbor or an uncle. I think it takes each one of us to help make sure that they understand that their health is extremely important. And they, as individuals, are extremely loved by each and one of us.
Thank you for that, Stacey. I'll just share this with the men. I do something called Cognac and Conversations. Sorry, I'm not promoting alcohol, but I'm meeting the men where they are, right? So Cognac and Conversations is a men's event, and that's what it is. It's all about conversation with good drinks, good food, but I bring the doctors out of their offices into the community at whatever bar we're at. No white coats, no stethoscopes allowed. And they come in and they speak to the community just like people. You will find doctors who are here. If you come into the community, you will get more patients in one space than will ever walk through your office. So I want you to think about those nonprofit organizations or CBOs who do events like that to get folks out. And then we started Say It With Love, which we did our first one last May in honor of dads during Father's Day. And again, we brought in doctors into the community, but we fed them, we decorated, we made it beautiful, because women, we do stuff really nice. If we get the men to do it, they're gonna put some white tablecloths down. They just gonna be like, look, whatever, we're gonna have some wings today. But instead, we made it really beautiful, we elevated it, and it was in honor of my husband. My husband, I lost him 20 months ago to a heart attack suddenly on our 29th wedding anniversary. And I'm here to tell you that he did not present with any type of underlying heart condition. Yet he had kidney failure, and he also had a heart condition that none of us knew about. Did he go to the doctor all the time? No. However, he was 54, and I'm a living witness to tell you that it is important for you to recognize anything in your body that does not feel good. Just acknowledge it. Go see someone who's a specialist. I can't tell you what it was like for my children to later tell me they were cutting school because they were afraid to come home and find me dead while I was doing chemo. So I need you to think about how you're not sharing information with your family members and young people. I also need you to think about what you leave behind when you just go suddenly and it was preventable. That's the key word. Some stuff is preventable, but you do have to say something. Doctors cannot help you if you are not vocal about it. And you don't want to go through what my family has gone through. We've been through some stuff, but we are still standing. But if you don't have to go through what I went through, please take advantage of what's here for us in this democratic country.
Thank you so much for your time.
Our thanks again. Can I get the mic? Our thanks again, great, to Stacy Hargraves, Diane Nathaniel, and Dr. Davida J. White. Thank you, ladies. They actually touched on a subject that is the subject of session 3, clinical trial diversity. Nothing about us without us. And guiding this next discussion, clinical trial diversity, is Kemi Williams, a seasoned clinical research executive with over 23 years in the biotechnology industry. At AstraZeneca, she leads the Clinical Trial Diversity Initiative. Kemi has driven clinical excellence at major biopharma companies like Roche, Abbott, and Medtronic. Sorry about that. And Kemi continues to shape the field through discussions like this one that we are about to have today. Also joining Kemi on this panel, Dr. Sonia Reed, Assistant Professor in Hematology Oncology at Vanderbilt University Medical Center. Dr. Reed's research tackles health disparities in breast cancer, focusing on genomic differences and improving healthcare delivery to underserved communities. She is also involved in breast cancer research in Jamaica and has received the Martin Luther King Jr. Award for her work in diversity, inclusion, and equity. And finally, Denise Lee, a retired attorney and lung cancer survivor. After her experience with a life-changing diagnosis, Denise has become a passionate advocate for early detection and personalized treatment. Celebrating 6 years cancer-free, she inspires others through her work with several organizations. Please welcome Kemi Williams, Dr. Sonia Reed, and Denise Lee.
Good morning, everyone. Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're really excited to be here as we delve into a very important topic that I consider very timely and critical. Clinical trial diversity, nothing about us without us. Here with me today are our amazing panelists, Dr. Sonia Reed with the Vanderbilt University Medical Center, and Ms. Denise Lee, who is a lung cancer survivor and a patient advocate. Both of them will share their powerful stories navigating the clinical trial process, cancer screening process, as well as cancer treatment process. Our goal is to be able to shed the light on the importance of early detection and clinical trial participation for our Black and brown communities, with a goal that by the time you leave from this discussion today, we would have highlighted the opportunities and challenges that exist for our community in the cancer care continuum. So now, to kick off, can you guys hear me clearly? Lovely. To kick off our session, I will start by asking Dr. Reed to please share the role that cancer screening play in the treatment of patients diagnosed with cancer.
That's an amazing question, and I think we have been addressing it all morning so far. But when we think about cancer screening, what we're really trying to do is find cancer before a patient has symptoms, right? So we're trying to find cancer before you even have a symptom, essentially trying to catch it at the earliest stage possible, because we know that early detection saves lives, right? And I think we have heard several different stories depending on cancer type. I think earlier we heard about colon cancer, for example, where we know that the standard age for screening is 45. However, what I always want to tell patients, we have to then tailor it to that individual based on your family history and based on risk factors, right? So how do you know that? How do you parse that out? I think it really starts with having a primary care doctor, right? Like if you don't have a primary care doctor that can guide that discussion, a doctor that you're seeing once a year when you're healthy, not just when you're having a symptom or you're not feeling well, that doctor can really sit with you, find out what that family history is, find out if you have a risk factor. Are you a smoker? Have you been a smoker in the past? And do you then need lung cancer screening? And then that doctor can sit with you and say, okay, based on your age or based on your family history or risk factors, this is the screening that we need to do this year, and this is how frequently we need to repeat said screening. So I always say the first part of actually getting optimal screening is making sure you have a primary care doctor. And I know in the Black and brown community, sometimes that's a simple thing, but sometimes some patients just don't have doctors. They access the healthcare system when they have a symptom, and I think we're really trying to change that course. That way everybody has a doctor that they trust, that they can go into once a year. That way they can get tailored screening based on their history.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that great insight, Dr. Reed. So, assuming someone gets screened, we picked up a positive signal. What do you think clinical trial play? What role does it play in the treatment option for such a patient?
Clinical trials, I believe, I think it was said earlier, but clinically, I treat patients with breast cancer. So I'm a breast cancer oncologist, so this is what I do day in, day out. And on the research side, I'm involved in breast cancer research, right? So just to give that context. But when I think about clinical trials, I really think that's that avenue where you're able to test different advances, whether it pertains to prevention, detection, or treatment, right? So clinical trials can span that continuum where we have different clinical trials testing new guidelines for screening, testing different tests, and trying to figure out, can we do a better test? And then figuring out drugs. Is there better drugs that can treat this cancer better with possibly even less side effects, right? And the other key thing when we think about clinical trials is clinical trials can give one access to therapies even before they're approved, right? So I always say the standard of care that we know today was a clinical trial yesterday, right? And sometimes that is some, critical information because today you got diagnosed with cancer. Who knows if you're going to be able to get that therapy when it's approved maybe 5 years down the line, and that could be the next it drug, so to speak, right? So being able to get access to that drug is really critical when you're starting to think about getting in on the hot drug that is now available.
Thank you so much. So Miss Lee, I would love to invite you into this conversation as well. Can you share a little bit about your diagnosis and how you felt when you heard the news?
Well, my diagnosis, I'll tell you what happened. I always say, or I like to say, that a billboard saved my life, and literally that is what happened. I was driving home from work, stuck in traffic. I look up, and there I see a billboard. And the thing that attracted my attention was the woman depicted on the blackboard was a black woman. And she was standing next to what I now know to be a CT scan machine. And the message on the billboard said, if you currently smoke or quit within the past 15 years, this test could save your life. I had never heard of anything like that before, but I knew that I qualified because I had quit smoking within the year. I went to my primary care physician, said I saw this test on this billboard. She says, you don't qualify. She pulled out the guidelines. She said I didn't qualify. I said, well, I started smoking when I was 14. I quit when I was 54. I was 40 years. I think I qualify. And she said, no, according to the guidelines, you don't qualify. So I went back for an unrelated reason 3 months later. In the meantime, I did research. I got additional information and found out that, in fact, I did qualify. So I went back the second time. I said, you know, by the way, I took this exam, and it was online. I said, I took this exam, and the exam says I qualify. I want you to reorder that test. I want you to order that test. And she pulled out the guidelines, and it showed that I then qualified. So she ordered it, and I took the exam, and the next day I got a call from a pulmonologist saying, we need to see you immediately in the office. What I first felt was when I was told, I said, I'm gonna die. And because lung cancer didn't really have a great reputation as far as recovery was concerned. And I think what amplified it for me was I had just retired from my job. I retired at 55. I had all of these things that I wanted to do. I had just come back from a 6-week vacation, took the test, and the next day they called me and said, we need to see you in the office. And I was diagnosed on Valentine's Day. So I was in a great state of fear, a lot of fear.
Yes, I can imagine what that was like. And I'm thankful that you're here now to tell us your story. Now, I understand you had an opportunity to be part of a clinical trial as part of your care. Can you tell us what motivated you to join a clinical trial and what your overall experience was as a trial participant?
Well, I first became aware of the whole arena of clinical trials with my dad. My dad was diagnosed with prostate cancer when I was in law school, so 35, 40 years ago. And 25 years down the line, his cancer had grown, it had spread, and treatment options for him were limited as far as a cure. And so they talked to him about a clinical trial. Now, you know, my dad was old school. He was born and raised in the South, pre-Jim Crow era, and he did not trust doctors, and he did not want to be, quote unquote, experimented on. And my sister and I had to keep talking, well, Daddy, this is what it does, Daddy, a lot of people do this, Daddy, 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 Daddy. And by the time we got him to the point where it was something that he would consider, he no longer qualified. So that was my first introduction to clinical trials. As far as my own personal experience with it, the person who mentioned clinical trial to me was my oncologist. I was midway through my chemotherapy because I had surgery. I had my upper left lobe removed. I had 17 lymph nodes removed, or 18 or whatever. I had a course of chemotherapy. After my second round of chemotherapy, my oncologist said to me, you know, I think you qualify for this clinical trial. Would you be interested? And I didn't think that I qualified for any because my lung cancer was found at a very early stage thanks to early detection. It was found at a stage 1B. And so I didn't think that I qualified for anything. And then he mentioned it to me, and that's how I got involved in the clinical trial, was my oncologist. And I'll tell you, I fell in love with my oncologist at that point because he mentioned it to me, so it led me to believe that he was looking out for me. Yeah.
I am so glad you highlighted that. You know, research has shown us that one of the reasons we don't have enough black and brown people in clinical trials is because no one invited them to join. And so to have an oncologist that thought about you, shared all your options with you, that is amazing. So now that you've been part of a clinical trial, and based on your experience, what would you conclude the difference between how you felt as a person before you joined the trial and now how you feel about the clinical trial process now that you've been through it?
I didn't have any problems agreeing to participate in the clinical trial. And I think, once again, that was because my fear was taking over. I wanted it out, the tumor. I wanted anything that looked like it could possibly be a cancer cell out of my body. I just wanted it gone. And actually, when my oncologist had mentioned to me the 4 rounds of chemotherapy, I said to myself, okay, well, what about 6? Because if 4 is good, 6 has to be better. But apparently it doesn't work that way. So, so when he mentioned the clinical trial, I was all in for it for a couple of reasons. One of the advantages of the clinical trial was even if I didn't get selected to get the drug, I would get 10 years of observation. And that's what I really wanted, was to make sure that I wasn't forgotten about. And since I did get the medication, I'll tell you, one of the interesting things that I discovered was that when you're in a clinical trial, they pamper you. They give you any and everything that you want. They follow you. I actually had a dedicated person to call anytime I had any questions. I didn't have any side effects, really. I mean, they were minimal. So I found it for myself to be an incredible experience, and it became even that much more incredible when I found out, I'd say 6 months ago, that the clinical trial I participated was approved by the FDA for treatment. That was really, really, for me, that's what it was all about. It will help me, but it's going to help somebody else down the line. Because when I think about, my cancer journey, clinical trials, somebody had to participate in a clinical trial in order for me to get the round of chemotherapy that I got. Somebody had to try that out first, and I benefited from that. So I was happy. I was honored. I was blessed to be able to participate in the clinical trial, and it was a wonderful experience for me.
Great, and I'm glad that you highlighted the type of resources that become available to patients when they participate in clinical trial, because it's important to start to understand what support systems are available. I do have a question around, was it easy for you to fit your clinical trial visits, going for your testing into your daily life, or were there other accommodations you needed to make?
Well, it was actually easy for me because I participated in the clinical trial at the same place where I got my chemotherapy, the same infusion center, the same research individuals, the same oncologist monitored me. So for me, it was just like going from chemotherapy to immunotherapy, which is what I received. There was some question at the very beginning whether my insurance company was going to pay for my scans, but I didn't have, for my scans for the clinical trial, but there was not an issue with that. So that was just my experience. It wasn't that much of an adjustment because I was just continuing to go to the same place.
Great. Thanks, Ms. Lee. And Dr. Reed, let me bring it back to you. As a physician, right, what type of support and resources are provided to patients when they're going through cancer treatments?
Yeah, that's a great question. So in addition to having your oncologist, which doesn't change when you're a part of a clinical trial, you really now have access to a clinical research team that follows you closely because, of course, sometimes we're testing new drugs, new ways to do things, so we want to make sure that we're monitoring very closely for side effects, et cetera. In addition, because clinical trials sometimes can lend itself to additional visits, we do have resources for certain clinical trials to help with lodging if you're having to travel from far to access a clinical trial that's not in your neck of the woods. Or you may have some help with vouchers for for meals or for missing work. So there are different resources, and that really differs clinical trial to clinical trial, or even where you're doing your clinical trial. So I always say ask about those resources, because sometimes patients say, well, I'm going to have to take off from work, or this is going to be a trek, but there's sometimes Uber discounts or Uber vouchers, etc. So always ask about what resources is available where you're getting your clinical trial, in case you are being out of pocket for additional expenses.
Thank you so much. So very soon we'll open this up to questions from the audience. But before we do so, Dr. Reed, I would like you to offer us a closing remark. What is your hope for the future of cancer care?
Big vision here. You know, when I think about what would I love to see in cancer care, say 5 or 10 years, is really for us to have a treatment that all patients can access, clinical trials that all patients can access, right? That you have a clinical trial available to you in your community and you don't have to travel miles away to get a clinical trial. And that access to care should not depend on my socioeconomic status or race, right? So that is really my hope.
Great. Call to action, actually, for all of us. Thank you. And so what we're hoping to leave our audience with today is the idea that there is a value that we bring to clinical trials. You heard what Ms. Lee said. That drug got approved. She was one of the participants that helped to generate the data to show the safety and effectiveness of that drug. But there's a value as well that clinical trials bring to us. If we were not part of the process in the first place, if that drug was never tested on us, we probably can't be sure that that drug would work for us. So I think that that continuum of need between the value we bring and the value that clinical trials offers a good opportunity for us to ensure that we're encouraging diverse participation in clinical trials. Now, I would love to thank our panelists. You have one more point to share, Ms. Lee? Okay, please go ahead.
I wanted to share one more thing. Sometimes when you go into your doctor's office, you and you alone are going to be your best advocate. So if you want something, ask. If you are not feeling, as the previous panelist mentioned, if you're not feeling as if your voice is not being heard, you're not being met where you are, ask. Always, always, always ask questions. And one of the advantages between my relationship between my oncologist and I, that it was so good, was because he always, always, always made the time to answer my questions. And I had a lot of them. But I would see things, I would see articles, and I would tear them out, and I would tab them, and I would bring them to him, and he's like, oh my God. But he would take the time to answer my questions. And if you're not getting your question, make sure you ask questions. And if you're not getting them answered, keep asking them or ask them of somebody else.
Very good point. Thank you. 10 more minutes. Okay, great. So now we'll go to question and answer session. But please note that AstraZeneca has a table in the exhibition hall. If you have any additional questions beyond what we cover here today, please come to the table. And if you want to get more information and materials around screening and clinical trial participation, please come to our table. All right, now.
Okay, first question.
Thank you. How do I hold it? Near or far? Just stop. Okay.
We have someone over here that has a question. Okay.
Yes. All right. All right. The question I want to ask is, what do you think of clinical trials in radiation oncology?
What do I think about it?
Yes.
I think it's an absolute important part of how we move the field forward in radiation oncology. There are several clinical trials trying to actually, for example, in breast cancer, we're trying to figure out, can we not give everybody radiation? Maybe now we can avoid radiation in certain patients. So for example, where I am at Vanderbilt, we have a clinical trial right now in radiation oncology trying to evaluate whether or not we perhaps can avoid radiation in patients that are over 65, for example. So I think, of course, those results of that trial, hopefully in maybe 5 years, may change how we do radiation for patients. So I think it's an important part for us to understand how we can better treat patients and tailor radiation guidelines for patients.
Thank you.
You can ask your question.
I don't have a question, I just have a statement. I have participated in several clinical trials, and not all clinical trials push drugs or use drugs. So some people are hesitant because of the use of drugs, but not all clinical trials push drugs or give you drugs. So now I participate in several of them, and I'm 72 years old.
Nice, awesome, and thank you for your involvement in clinical trials.
Hello. First of all, I want to say thank you to the panel for giving this documented information to our community that we need so much. What I'd like to say is, what do we do in the Black and brown community? I understand that cancer is sometimes hereditary, sometimes you cannot help it. But what do we do in the Black and brown communities to educate on how we eat? I understand a lot of times, my mother ate this, my grandmother ate this, da-da-da-da. How do we, because you know all the food nowadays is pretty tainted anyhow, even the vegetables. But how can we go about educating the Black and brown community on better ways to feed themselves in order to prevent some of these diseases?
I think that's an excellent question, and what I would say to that is start young. So I have a 9-year-old, and we have those conversations from now on best practices and how to eat, making sure you're staying active, eating your fruits and vegetables, right? Avoiding certain heavy red meat diets. So I think really making it a way of life in our community, it's gonna take time because we have done it the wrong way for so long. So I think really, even when the kids are small, not making fast food the go-to, right? Taking it back to the table in the evenings, home-cooked meals. So I think it's gonna take time to change the tide, but I think we really have to start young with really changing that mindset, keeping the kids active, because then when they grow older, they'll value more exercise and they'll value more healthy eating habits.
Hello. First of all, I would like to just say thank you to Black Health Matters for doing this conference. I came all the way from Connecticut for this specifically because we don't have anything like this going on in Connecticut. I've been a nurse for 23 years, but I also lost my mom to breast cancer at 29, diagnosed at 23. So my question for you is, although because of colonization and mixed cultures, we know who we are, but we don't know who we are. And as far as genetics go, someone looks at me, they see a Black woman, they look at my last name, Santos, they think I'm Hispanic. They look at my birth certificate, my race says white, because I am Ashkenazi, Sephardic, and an Israelite, i.e. why my mom died of breast cancer, her father prostate, her mother bone, my cousin has bile duct, colon, every cancer you could think of is in my family. So as a nurse, I know what my rights are, and I know to talk about my family background, but a lot of people don't know it. What do you guys think about actually having genetic testing that may qualify more people for trials?
So I'm so glad you asked that question, and thank you for sharing your story with us. What we are realizing right now is that genetic testing is playing a critical role in identifying precision medicine, meaning the medicine that would target exactly the source of the cancer. And so we actually advocate and encourage people to get the right screening test, right? And sometimes when you get diagnosed with a particular type of cancer, then they follow it up with a biomarker test, with some genetic tests, so they can really identify the SARS and then be able to identify the right medication. Now, in the world of those of us in the industry, that is what we're trying to do. We're trying to find the right therapy for the right person at the right time. And genetic testing is one of the tools that's helping us to identify the right medication that can achieve that goal.
Here you go.
Hi there. I'd like to ask a question about how we as a community advocate for inclusion in terms of how do we because unlike the lawyer who was able to advocate for herself and know how to look for information, how do I as an ordinary person be able to find information about getting tested and being retested?
I mean, that speaks to my heart, definitely, because I think vulnerable patients, of course, always will stay at this, I would say, be outside of the ring, if you may. And I think what you really want to do is include yourself in venues like this, right? Education. So an opportunity like Black Health Matters right now, where we're being fed with information on guidelines, may make, if you or a family member should show up to a doctor's office maybe in a year or two, it may, ring a bell like, hold on a second, I never heard about clinical trials. Is it that you're forgetting to mention it, or do I qualify, right? So just having that information in the back of your head when you go to these different venues may be one tool. But again, sometimes you may not have an opportunity to know what to ask. So I would always say really just surrounding yourself with a team. So your healthcare team sometimes is your best advocate, right? And if you're engaging with an oncologist or a surgeon that you don't think really have your best interest at heart, or you don't just trust that sharing everything, it may mean getting a second opinion just to see what else is out there. I always say you really have to feel comfortable with the team that you're getting your care from, because that's really how you're going to really feel comfortable that I'm getting all that I deserve, so to speak.
Thanks, and we have one last question.
She said something I didn't hear.
Do I say?
Yes.
Okay. Hi. Thank you so much for sharing. My brother, he just was diagnosed with cancer, and he's 65, but thank goodness it came like in the first stage. And you should be more scared not to go to the hospital then, because you wait to the end. I notice people with stage 4, it's more work to do, and you gotta go to the hospital more and take more medicine, opposed to being in stage 1. And now his chemo his cancer has gone down some, because he was only have like stage 1. And thank you so much for sharing on this topic, because Black people, and other people too, think that we Superman, Superwoman. No, we got inside liver, kidneys, and stuff like that that you gotta take care. And I tell them to drink water. I'm the water queen. They be like, oh, no, you go, I now drink water. That's right. Because as water is part of the body, you have to, they say 8 glasses, but some people don't even have 1 glass, So, and it's, you got to put water in your body because to cleanse your kidneys and liver and stuff. Thank you.
Good afternoon to each and everyone in the room, and to the panel. I'm grateful for you, for the knowledge that you have shared with us. My question is, do you believe because of the social and the other factors that in neighborhoods of brown and black folk, that we get less because of the zip code that we are living in? We don't get the same things that other zip codes get. For me, I'm in a clinical trial now, and I'm only in that trial because I was nosy and I wanted to know what was going on, and I asked a lot of questions. I'm with the Neurological Institute at New York Presbyterian Hospital, and just last week, I did a brain scan. Prior to the brain scan, I did a cognitive test. It was a 4-hour test. And the doctors that gave the test were so amazed because I could remember everything that they said and the order that it was said in, and even if they switched it up, I could still remember. So they said, okay, well, she did well. Let's do her brain. I did the scan on last week. I haven't gotten back my results yet. But I believe because I was nosy and I wanted to know what was going on, that I have the opportunity to know if there's anything that's going on with me on the cognitive level. I could be aware of it and I can get the help that I need. I can seek out other areas and other trials, but I just believe because of the zip code that we don't get what we rightfully deserve. There's an impartiality where we live is based on. And Justice said this, in the South Bronx, where all the fume is in the Hunts Point area of the South Bronx, they have the highest rate of asthma. I was a product of the South Bronx. I didn't have asthma, but there are so many people that have asthma because of the fumes, and I believe that if the powers that be and the government was to come through the neighborhoods and sweep, we would get much better results.
Thank you so much. A wonderful way for us to end the segment, because what it says, you're right. Part of the social determinant of health is really where we live, right? And what we have access to. And we need to start figuring out one thing: how do we ask the right questions? Ms. Lee said she asked questions, right? You asked questions as well. And if there's anything I would like to leave us with today, please, in your interaction with family members, with friends, continue to encourage them. If you have any diagnosis or any questions around cancer screening, please ask the questions. If you actually happen to be diagnosed with cancer and your doctor hasn't said anything about a clinical trial, ask about that as well, because a clinical trial could as well be a treatment option for many of our patients. So please continue to ask. Thank you so much for this time. We appreciate you.
Thanks again to Dr. Sonia Reed, Kemi Williams, and Denise Lee. All right, our next session, session number 4, Saving Legs, Changing Lives. It's our pleasure to have Dr. Jabaris Swain, a world-renowned cardiothoracic transplant surgeon, scientist, and global health scholar, joining us. His work focuses exclusively on augmenting access to clinical education and care delivery for cardiovascular diseases within resource-limited settings, places like Rwanda and Haiti. He has lived in these areas and provided support to projects designed to strengthen healthcare infrastructures for critically vulnerable populations in resource-constrained settings. Please welcome this afternoon, Dr. Jabaris Swain.
Before Dr. Swain gets started, it is so loud in here. Can you please refrain from talking, especially if you're in the back or upstairs, because it's echoing through the room so we can hear. Thank you.
And Dr. Swain, before you start, I have one housekeeping note. So listen up, guys. If you lost your cell phone, we found a cell phone. It's over at the production table here, and all you need to do is go over to the table and put your PIN in. So take a look and see if you're missing your cell phone. We've got it at the table here. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Harlem. Good afternoon, Harlem. Excellent. My name is Dr. Jabaris Swain, and I bring you greetings from Philadelphia. I actually got on the train this morning, really excited to be here with you all. So if I can just get your attention, if I can at least just get your attention for 15 minutes, I want to share with you some information that could be the difference between you walking out of your house one day. And that's going to be really important that you listen up, because it may not apply to some of you in the room, but it could apply to people that you know, knowing your numbers. But one other thing that is important is that we have access to medical information. And part of the reason why I'm here, anyone who has now, we've heard a lot before in the past about coronary artery disease, and as a heart surgeon, that's really important to me because I focus primarily on the heart. But peripheral artery disease is equally important because it involves the vessels that carry blood from your heart to the rest of your body. And so I'm going to share with you some information that's going to be critically important, not only about the fact of peripheral artery disease, but skin is brown, you may receive care that is different from someone else. Your early death. Anybody here who identifies as black? Anybody besides me? Because if you do, while it is an awesome opportunity, it puts you 2 times greater risk than white Americans for developing PAD. And so what is PAD? We're going to start with a basic anatomy lesson. So we have arteries. Arteries are the pipes that carry blood from your heart to the rest of your body. And so when there's an issue with the arteries, you can have buildup. And if that buildup happens in the heart, it's called a heart attack. And we commonly know that buildup as plaque. But plaque can occur not only in your heart, but it can also occur in the blood vessels that supply blood to the other parts of your body. When that occurs, PAD happens. And so PAD occurs when a plaque builds up and forms in the walls of the arteries that supply blood to your limbs. And so we know what happens if you have a clot or a plug. When blood goes to your heart, as I mentioned, you have a heart attack. If you have a clot or a plug that prevents blood from going to your brain, you have a stroke. But what people sometimes forget is that you can also have a clot that goes to your extremities, primarily your lower extremities. And the way that we manage that, as I mentioned, can be very different. There is a percentage of Americans who get to the health facility too late, and we're unable to do anything. And the treatment for PAD in that case is amputation. And so, as I mentioned, when you have the blocked arteries going to your heart or your brain, we don't know about those. But what about when they go to your legs? Next slide. And who's at risk? Anybody have diabetes? You don't have to raise your hand, but if you have diabetes or know someone who has diabetes, they have a 1 in 3 chance of developing PAD if they're over the age of 50. If you have heart disease, you also have a 1 in 3 chance of developing or having PAD. And then here's the one that is no stranger to our community, high blood pressure. Some of you may say, well, I don't have high blood pressure. Well, if you're taking metoprolol or any of the alls, it's likely because you're treating hypertension or high blood pressure. There are also a couple of other medications. But if you have high blood pressure, that is a condition where your top number is greater than 130 and your bottom number is 80 or above. If you fall in that criteria, you are at a higher risk of developing peripheral artery disease. So it's one thing to have hypertension and have to take medications, but then it's another thing to have not only hypertension, but also to be at risk of PAD. And my goal today is to try to help you learn ways to minimize that risk. And then the next one a lot of people are probably familiar with is hypercholesterolemia or hyperlipidemia. That's the name that we use in the medical terms. But high cholesterol can also put you at great risk of developing peripheral artery disease because it can lead to the formation of plaque. And when that plaque forms, it can cause you to be at risk for developing a heart attack, a stroke, and diminished blood flow to your extremities that could lead to an amputation. And then this last one, we don't really like to talk about it, but it's been in the news a lot, and it's obesity or being overweight. One thing that draws our community together is food. And I know that I am standing between you and food right now, so I'll try to go quickly. But what's going to be critically important is that we watch our weight. It's not a matter of going on a diet, but making sure that we're eating clean, that we're optimizing vegetables, and that we're minimizing the things that are going to add weight to the scale. Next slide. And so these are some others. I won't go through one by one, but these are some other conditions that can put you at risk. Anyone who has chronic kidney disease, if you smoke, that also includes Mary Jane. If you have a family history, a family of peripheral artery disease, if you're older in age, and if you're Black American. Again, Black Americans are 2 times of greater risk of developing peripheral artery disease than white Americans. And so what do we do about it? What are some of the signs? I have up here some signs and symptoms, and many of you probably even have these symptoms now. Painful leg cramping, numbness, weakness, and heaviness in your legs or feet, resting leg pain, cold feet, discolored skin, hair loss in your arms or legs, or foot sores. And what's also important is that 40% of people with PAD, they don't have leg pain. So let me real quickly share a story with you. You have a patient, 55 years old, has hypertension, diabetes, they're taking all the medications and they're compliant, and they see their doctor regularly. You're asleep, and one night you have to get up and go to the bathroom because the doctor gave you one of those medications that make you urinate all the time. So in the middle of the night, you get up and try to make it to the bathroom, and you stub your toe on the bed. It hurts. I did it last night. It hurts. But you go back to bed, and you get up in the morning, and you realize, oh, it's a little bump on your toe. Not a big deal. Then 2 days later, the bump is still there, but it becomes red. And then it's tender when you touch it. And then Sunday comes, and for those of us who still go to church, you put on your 6-inch heels, your stilettos. But this time, there's something different about it. You have to put your flats on because that bump, it now hurts a little bit more. It's painful, and you kind of feel pain that goes up your leg. And then after church, you realize when you take your shoe off, there's a foul odor. You look down at the sore that was initially a bump, it now has spread across your whole big toe. And so you have a nail appointment the next day, and they turn you away because they say, I can't do your nails because the store has now come over your entire big toe. 3 weeks have passed and you're still having this pain. And you finally get to the doctor. And you know us, we're in a rush, we don't have a lot of time, we do everything, but what we don't ask you to do is take off your shoes. And you forget. You forget to take off your shoes. And they make you, go check out, and you get home, and then you realize that sore has now spread to the second foot. You have shakes and chills, and you have to run to the emergency room because you think you have COVID. But guess what? It's not COVID that's causing you to have the shakes and chills. It's the fact that the infection from that caused you to have an issue. And you go into the doctor and they say, not only do we have to amputate your toe, but now we have to amputate your foot. This is what peripheral artery disease means for many Black Americans. And so treating it in time may protect you from serious conditions like amputation, such as loss of your leg or foot, heart attack, stroke, or death from heart attack or stroke. Untreated peripheral artery disease can affect your daily living. You'll struggle with simple daily tasks, even walking, and it could mean a loss of independence. Next slide. So how can you find out if you have it? Tell your doctor if anyone in your family has peripheral artery disease. And then the most important thing, which is what I've done now, I've taken my shoes off. I won't take my socks off, but I've taken my shoes off because I want you to leave here remembering that anytime you see a health provider and they do a full physical, make sure you take your shoes off, take your socks off, and then have them examine your legs and your feet. All right? And if there's a concern, your doctor should take your blood pressure in your leg as well as your arm. And a lot of people are like, well, wait, I always get my blood pressure checked in my arm, but you can also get a pressure checked in your leg. And when we capture those numbers, we create a ratio called ABI, ankle brachial index. And what that does is it gives us a number that will let us understand whether or not you have peripheral artery disease, or if you are at risk, or if you have diminished blood flow that requires further attention. And there are some other tests that you can get done. There's some blood tests that we now offer that not only gives us an understanding of your risk for peripheral artery disease, but also coronary artery. There's also imaging that can be done, which includes an ultrasound, which is non-invasive, which means they don't have to go inside of you. It doesn't require surgery. They just put the probe on your vessels to be able to understand how well your blood flow is. It is going to be important for you as patient advocates, if you have any of those symptoms, demand that your doctor examines your legs and your feet. And if there's an issue, demand that they do an ultrasound. And so, if you have any of these issues, and I'm sure there's somebody in the room that has these conditions, wounds on your toes, feet, and legs that are slow to heal, unexplained pain or cramping, skin discoloration in the feet, poor nail growth, skin that appears shiny, or loss of leg hair. If any of those are conditions or concerns that are plaguing you, make sure the next time you go to the doctor that you take your shoes and your socks off and have them examine your legs and your feet. Next slide. And remember, 40% of people with PAD will not have leg pain. So there are some of us who have peripheral artery disease and don't even have symptoms. Next slide. So if it is found that you have peripheral artery disease, it's not the end of the day. And that's why it's important for us to detect this early, just with everything else. There are medications that can be given and other activities that can be done that will either minimize or reduce your risk from going on to amputation. And that includes medications that help lower your blood pressure, medications that lower your cholesterol, medications that prevent blood clots, and help leg pain and improve your walking ability. And it doesn't always have to include medication. I know there are those of us here that also like using natural remedies and homeopathic remedies. Whatever your kind of etiology is, the important message that I can endorse today is making sure that you see a provider and that you're screened for peripheral artery disease. And so really quickly, I'm gonna wrap up and share with you some other ways in which you can reduce your risk. And the first one is a no-brainer: be more active. Walking and or getting exercise is important. A doctor or physical therapist can help you develop a plan that will work for your specific needs. Not all of us can get out and run or jog or do like swimming exercise, but even those of us who are in a wheelchair or seated, there are simple exercises that you can do to help minimize your risk of developing peripheral artery disease, as well as lower your risk of developing other cardiovascular complications. The next thing that we can do is quit smoking. I know that's easier said than done, but if there are challenges, there are different programs and medications that we can use that will help minimize and reduce the amount of smoke intake. And not only if you're smoking yourself, but you can also be at risk if someone in the household smokes. Eating a heart-healthy diet. Now, I feel like a hypocrite because I inhaled that Chick-fil-A sandwich that they gave me up top. You know, I didn't eat the bread. And so, you know, for me, I've chosen not to eat bread and minimize my carbs, and you may have a way in which you're modulating your own diet. Whichever it is, you want to try to optimize fruits and vegetables. And you want to be careful which types of fruits you take if you happen to have diabetes. But the most important thing is to eat a heart-healthy diet that is low in saturated fat. And then the last thing, take care of your feet. And that doesn't necessarily mean going to get a pedicure every week, but making sure you're examining when you get out of the shower. Don't just air dry your feet. We need to get a towel and dry your feet. Make sure that you're wearing shoes that fit. I remember when we're going back to school now, and the Jordans that I wanted, they're coming a size 8.5, and I'm a 9.5, but I'm gonna try to fit them anyway. And so that can cause you to develop sores on your feet that can, be difficult to heal and lead to complications of amputation if you have peripheral artery disease. And then the last thing, sometimes we hear about, athlete's foot and foot fungus, or you have a friend that takes their shoes off and it has a foul smell. If you have those conditions or issues, we need to get it checked out, all right? So I'm gonna wrap up here, but I want to just thank you all for your undivided attention. And I really just want to reiterate that Johnson & Johnson Innovative Medicine, and we are committed to being in the Black community, and we are committed to making sure that we provide health care such that someone's background or their ethnicity does not dictate the care that they receive or deserve. We want to exist in a world in which all care is available to all individuals. And the way in which we start that is to address vulnerable populations, but we can't do it alone. We need your help. We need your help in advocating for yourself. We need your help in advocating for your family members. We need our partners here along the wall to remind our families and our communities how important it is to advocate for ourselves and our health. But most importantly, we need organizations like Black Health Matters And so I want to give a final round of applause for Black Health Matters and the team for the work they've done. Thank you all.
Let's give Dr. Jabara Swain another round of applause. Thank you. All right, guys. So I gotta go do my real job. Oh, believe me, there's some great folks coming up here after me. Y'all won't even remember my name. Thank you so much for allowing me to be here with you this afternoon. Watch Here and Now on Sundays at noon. We deal with it's up to us to take our health into our own hands. I'm going to take a quick moment because I can stay. Tracy, please stand up. Tracy Bagley is the producer of Here and Now. She also produced for Gil Noble before he passed. So I just wanted to give her the credit that she deserves. So, host, American model, reality television personality, and actress, Cynthia Bailey. I got a few more good things to say about you. See, I told you, y'all wouldn't even remember my name when she got up here. So after a stellar career on the fashion runways of the world, Cynthia has stayed consistently busy as a cast member of Bravo and as founder of the Be Better Foundation. Cynthia credits her strong will and strong spiritual. Everyone has a destiny. With faith in yourself and faith in God, you can accomplish anything. When you send that energy out to the universe, it has to come back to you. Miss Cynthia Bailey.
Should I say something? Take a quick okay, before I say
And while they're doing this brief photo, just get the photo, please. Of us, so we appreciate your patience, and thank you so much for coming out.
Oh, thank you. Uh-oh. Hello, Harlem. Hello. Anyway, just about health and wellness, because it's such an important issue for all of us. It does not discriminate at all. You know, when you don't feel well and it turns into sickness and, you know, can even go further than that, it really is just life-changing on fibroids. And I talk about it a lot, and although I'm on the other side of fibroids, I still use my platform and my voice to continue to talk about it. About a year and a half ago, my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer. And my mom is almost 70 at this point. Long story short, I literally, not only did she shut down her life, I shut down mine to make sure I could assist her and be there with her to go through the journey with her, because what I realized, well, number one, my mom has been there for me my entire life, so it was my time to be there for her. And it was almost like the roles, we were so confused when she got there, she didn't know which way to go. And you don't think about things like that until it, like, you know, affects you and someone that you love. So I'd literally, you know, we'd get up and be like, all right, we got to go to your appointment. You know, I would, you know, find out to what she needed to do to try to get on the other side of breast cancer. Because she would, you know, often leave, you know, she's older, confused and had so many questions. So it just really struck me how important it is to be there not only for ourselves, to just make sure we take care of ourselves, but the people that we care about that have, and with all the things that we have going on in our lives, because I know the world is crazy and we're just busy and it's just a lot going on all the time. And even for myself, with my busy schedule, I literally have to be beyond sick before I will even go to the doctor. I just feel like, oh, I'll be okay. Oh, I'll just take, you know, a Tylenol. I'll do whatever. So I would just encourage all of us. Do I see some men here? Okay, I see mostly women. But men and women, to listen to your bodies, put yourself first, and put your health. All right. And if there's any eye doctors in here, I probably need to get. We're going to go on. Welcome to our panel address. To kick things off, with her extensive expertise and many topics such as trauma, ADHD, and stress management. I know we all know about that. Dr. D'Ambreville is here today to share some valuable insights. Next up is Dr. Maurice Henson, the founder and executive director of MediRoots Medical Group. Next, we have Dr. Pamela Drulinski. Hello, welcome. A medical oncologist specializing in breast cancer. I'll be listening more for that. As a key member of MSK's breast cancer disease management team, she collaborates with experts across multiple disciplines to provide top-notch care. Currently the medical site director at MSK Nassau, Dr. Drulinski is dedicated to offering advanced treatments and personalized care to her patients. Our moderator is the Assistant Commissioner of Bureau of Harlem Neighborhood Health, Padmore John. Welcome. Give it up for all of our panelists. Hi. Hello, nice to meet you.
We've gotten some good information, right? And we're going to continue that. I heard someone say earlier, youth. We also see that there's a lot of females in. I'm asking you, one, to listen carefully to the information. We're going to need the information just as much as you do. We appreciate the fact that you've been here with us today. Many of you were probably here last year, got some great information. And we're talking about healthy aging, right? What are the different things we can do physically to make sure that we continue to age healthy and well, that we can. So that's what we're here for. The other thing is also make sure we're speaking about the challenges many of our youth are facing around mental. Really quickly, it's getting preventive screenings, listening to.
Okay. So I'm a breast medical oncologist, and I work for Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. And I think we're very lucky to live in New York City, where we're surrounded by so many amazing hospitals, including a specialized cancer hospital called Sloan Kettering. And we're located also with a special office right here in Harlem on 124th Street. I think you've heard amazing information. And in terms of the top cancers in men and women, lung cancer is number 1. Breast is number 2, and 3 is colon cancer, and prostate is number 2 in men. I think I'll leave that to you. So you've heard about screening. And I wanted to speak to the women in the audience. As an oncologist, is it okay okay, I'm hearing an echo. As a medical oncologist, I can tell you that unfortunately about 3/4 of the patients I'm seeing right now are stage 4. So I don't know if there are any women in the audience with masses in their breasts. I just wanted to say, please don't be afraid to see a doctor. There's so many things that we can do for you. With the COVID epidemic, there's been a lot of misinformation about vitamins helping you and a lot of alternative medicine, but really traditional medicine is what can help you and save your lives. So I wanted you to encourage to get screening, see a doctor, even if you think you have something advanced, because there's so many great hospitals in New York. There's also great programs for people without insurance, and maybe you can speak to the cancer screening programs that New York offers. With Memorial in Harlem, we offer screening for people without insurance, so even without a prescription, you can get a mammogram. I don't know if you want to speak about the CSP program that New York State offers.
I'll let Dr. Hinton go and then Dr. Bill.
Good afternoon. Once again, my name is Dr. Maurice Henson. I'm a general internist by training. I got my bachelor's in neuroscience at Johns Hopkins University, my medical degree at Drexel University College of Medicine, and currently I work at Jamaica Hospital Medical Center as a hospitalist, which just means I take care of people who are admitted to the hospital. And I also work as a primary care physician through my company, MediRoots Medical Group, which is a telehealth-based primary care practice where we specialize in the delivery of high-value primary care by integrating medicine, so using traditional practices like herbal therapy, massage, acupuncture, sound healing, in addition to conventional medicine, which you see in our current healthcare system. Some of my other work includes being the advisor and founder of Black Latino Men in Medicine at Weill Cornell. So this is a network of students, high school students, college students, hospital administrators, politicians that was created to help combat this precipitous decline in Black and Hispanic male physicians. And this is not to disregard our young queens from participating. We run a mentoring program where we mentor all high school and college students, irrespective of gender. But we have an issue with the number of underrepresented physicians in this healthcare system, and the challenges that we face as a people, as a community, will only be addressed once the face of medicine looks like us. All right. Cannabis and psychedelic therapy to help with cardiovascular disease, dementia, high blood pressure, diabetes, heart disease, cancer. So these medications, albeit have been demonized in many ways, are actually incredibly therapeutic and incredibly beneficial if used appropriately. So this is one of the research areas that I'm currently involved in. It's a pleasure.
I am a child psychologist, adult psychologist at Mount Sinai Hospital in the Icahn School of Medicine. I work with adults in Mount Sinai who are medical students, grad students, the house staff that serve you guys as residents and fellows, and I'm here to kind of talk a little bit about how we can support our children and our youth and our families around their mental health and wellness.
Thank you all. I want you all to know there are tables in the back, and so some of the information Dr. Drulinski was talking about, you can gain it there. The Bureau of Harlem Neighborhood Health, our Health Action Center 115 for Lexington, we are giving out information. We're giving out COVID test kits and other resources. Come back to you. We know we're seeing some of the challenges that the youth is facing right now, social media, trying to get as many clicks as possible, self-esteem. So what are some of the things that you are seeing in that practice, and what are some of the ways that we can address that and be supportive of our youth as they get through this?
Yeah, so I mean, we all, who here has their phone on them right now? I do. I shouldn't, but I do, right? So we're all glued to our phones, we're all on Facebook, and so the internet is not a bad, hello? Can you hear me? Okay, hi. Sorry. The internet is not a bad place. In fact, for a lot of people, it's where we get our information, it's where we connect with people, and we have a good time. And so it's really typical for teens and children to want to be on the internet, especially this generation. They're kind of born with a phone in their hands, right? The concern about social media is that when it comes to mental health, for young kids and teens, it's hard for them to understand the dangers of the internet, right? It's hard for them to understand what makes a good internet friend versus an unsafe internet friend. So taking care of our kids can really affect their self-esteem. It can cause anxiety and depression. It can cause a lot of social comparison. It can cause a lot of misunderstanding about what's important in life, right? Clicks and likes and pictures, and not necessarily things that might matter a little bit more. And it actually starts with you all, the parents and families, and teaching them about cell phone use, teaching them about technology time, helping them set limits, helping them have things outside of the phone to spend time on, and at the same time not withholding the phone and not withholding social media, but making it a family conversation, right? Like, you're 14, you're gonna get an Instagram account, like how can we share with each other kind of who you're following and what kind of content you're looking at, so that way you know when you're coming across unsafe content. Make it a family conversation as like, what have you heard or what video have you seen that we can laugh about, but what videos have you seen that might have brought up a topic that made them a little bit uncomfortable, and you want them to come to you as the parent, the caregiver, grandma, auntie, to sort of say, hey, what is this? Can we talk about it? So social media can be a detriment to mental health, but it also can be edible, and that's a great thing. We also just want to keep them safe and protect their mental health.
All right, thank you. Dr. Drulinski, I believe it, yeah, and I have to really applaud them, because 20 years ago, and I remember when they moved into Harlem, and they wanted to make sure that women in Harlem were able to get cancer screenings free of charge, even if they don't have insurance or connecting you with for insurance. So I think that's really important, and what's important about that is the investment that MSKC has done. So can you just speak to that center, what role it plays, and the importance of getting there as early as possible?
Thank you so much for saying that. Yeah, Ralph Lauren, the designer, came 20 years ago, and they're actually opening up other cancer centers around the United States to try to help improve healthcare disparities, and they're opening up in neighborhoods like Harlem. And Memorial Sloan Kettering joined with Ralph Lauren 5 years ago, and it goes to everything you've been hearing since this morning, because we just have to stop being afraid. And again, without insurance, you can get the best cancer care anywhere that's available right here in New York City. And just thank you for mentioning that. And I just encourage people to go.
Yeah, and then I think one of the things you mentioned is to try and, in terms of screenings, the importance of coming and recognizing any challenges at the early time.
Right.
So what can
so
you
maybe
explain
we
that?
can just say that in breast cancer specifically, the cure rate is above 90% if you pick it up early with screening mammography. So if you can not fear a mammogram, and maybe you can talk about PSA screening, which is so high in African American men. And colorectal is the number 3 cancer in both men and women. So we have to get screened, and the cancer cures are so high these days, we just have to go see physicians. Maybe you can talk about prostate cancer screening a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, and Dr. Hinson, I want to come to you especially because you're making an urgent push to increase the number of physicians that look like us. That's important. And can you just, we definitely give a hand of applause for that. We have 2 schools right here, Toro doctors that look like us, and that's really important. So can you speak to that importance, and can you speak to why that is important?
Yeah, sure. So, you know, every once in a while, I get a little bit of flack for naming the organization Black and Latino Men in Medicine, because there's always, well, what about the young women? Okay, so you're doing your thing. Our young black men and young Hispanic men, however, have significantly decreased over that same time frame. In fact, black male physicians have decreased nearly 30%. And we already only account for 2% of the healthcare field, so we're going extinct. So I purposely named it Black and Latino Men in Medicine, and purposely target our young black and Hispanic men because we're almost non-existent. And when we talk about some of the issues that we face as a community and not having providers who we trust that exist in our community, we don't have that. And so it's understandable why you may not be so pressed to go see your doctor. Maybe you feel like you're not being heard, right? That because we have this racial, cultural difference, that they're not gonna understand the level of pain you're in, the level of discomfort, the type of symptoms that you're experiencing, the family pressure that's imposed on you, your work pressure that's imposed on you. Not everyone understands these small nuances that we have to deal with. But if you talk to someone that is of the same racial, cultural background, more than likely they at least have some level of understanding, okay? And what we find, what all the data shows, is that doctor-patient medical services and have better health outcomes. So this is not just something that we increase the number of underrepresented physicians.
Thank you, Dr. D'Amberville. I see you want to come in, and I want to bring you into this because I know there is a paucity of clinical psychologists, licensed clinical social workers to address some of the substance use and medical health needs. So can you just speak to that, please?
Yeah. So, I mean, America is in a mental health crisis, right? Like, our children are really hurting, and you all are hurting, I'm hurting, adults are hurting, COVID hurt us all. And the issue is that If you can't see it, you can't be it, right? And so when you don't, as a therapist, you can be a psychologist and get a PhD like me, you can be a social worker, you could be a nurse practitioner. There's so many ways to be a mental health provider, but if you think about, do people even know those professions exist? Can they access that education and those professional certifications? If we don't have enough Black and brown mental health professionals, then you, the community, don't access those services. And that places a greater burden on the few BIPOC clinicians that are doing this work. The majority of psychologists are also Black male therapists, Asian male therapists, Hispanic male therapists, Black female therapists, right? And it's really hard to be one Black therapist for all the Black kids, right? And so we want to give them the care, but we can't because the pipeline is kind of just short. And so we want to help people see that they can access this as a profession. A lot of that comes from having their own experience in mental health or in therapy. So if we can increase the services available, which Mount Sinai is very much